Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back, Maverick family and new viewers. It's a privilege to be here again tonight, and we will be privileged later in the broadcast when we will be joined by a very, very special guest. I would call him an unsung hero of the freedom movement, someone who has been there all along, more sort of in the background, sometimes up front, not like he's hiding, but always working sort of behind the scenes, bringing people together, unifying people really, and finding positive ways forward. Tonight, we will be joined by Jack McLellan, who will talk to us about a new effort to help freedom fighters who continue to face legal challenges. And he will tell all of us how we can help as the fight for freedom continues. We'll also tonight take a look at what really, I think, marked the real beginning or the kickoff of the U.S. presidential campaign. And we'll take a look at the two leading contenders, Biden and Trump, and compare their messaging. Who's being positive? Who's being negative? Who's the true patriot? I think you probably already have an answer in your mind. But in these polarized times, opinions strongly vary. We'll take a look at that and all the other top news of the day when we come back. Right after this, stay with me.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back. And today is the anniversary of the J6 event. We still have a lot of people in jail who were involved with that. And I think the Biden administration has really weaponized the legal system against its political opponents. Two strongly opposing views on things politically right now. As a result, you have a lot of people in jail. Trump in Iowa campaigning. Biden with his first real 2024 presidential campaign speech yesterday. And how did Biden kick things off with his campaign? He went back to Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. That's his narrative. Trump, on the other hand, playing up U.S. patriotism. He as much as they try to say Donald Trump is being negative, it's very patriotic. You could say it's nationalistic or that Donald Trump is a nationalist. He's pro-America, America first. Biden, he's saying that Trump is the threat to America. Trump is saying Biden is the threat to America. And then it comes back to this whole issue of election integrity, what happened in the last presidential election. That's hanging over everyone's heads, continues to hover above everything like storm clouds. and the storm is upon us. 2024 is going to be, to say the least, interesting, and I think, honestly, probably violent as this presidential race heats up. You're going to see many more protests in the streets. You're going to see the two political forces, I think, coming head to head, face to face, clashing in the streets. I think it is inevitable. I think the political rhetoric that we are likely to see from both sides will inflame the situation. This is for all the marbles. This is to control, to become the president of the most powerful nation on earth, or at least that's what they say. Certainly, one of the most powerful nations on earth, a superpower, a nuclear power. What lengths wouldn't they go to? Don't underestimate how far anyone would go to seize power of the US government and everything that brings with it. The money, the power. What wouldn't they stop at to get their hands on those nukes? It's a democracy, and democracy itself is the weakness of democracy, because you can take over a country. If you think about it, you can take over a country simply by getting elected. I don't think the system was ever really set up to function that way, but that's really what it comes down to. You have two opposing political forces, maybe, diametrically opposed ideologically, coming head to head in an election. And thank God for democracy, because without it, we might well be into a civil war. And I would say that based on what I've been seeing, especially over the past day, we're into, I don't know if you can quite call it a civil war, but it's starting to feel like it. If not a civil war in the kinetic sense, it's certainly a civil war when it comes to information warfare, fifth generation warfare, electoral warfare. This is beyond just an election. This is about what you believe. Who do you believe? What's true? Did Joe Biden really win the last election? Did he get all those votes that we're told he got? Did he really generate more voter support than Obama while campaigning from his basement in the last election? When Donald Trump stands up there and expresses concerns about election integrity, is he on the right path? You see, if you believe this narrative or you believe that narrative, you can see why people are so diametrically opposed. And of course, everybody is being fed the information to confirm their bias. They're in their bubble and they're getting all these videos and information over and over again. If you're a Democrat, if you're a Biden supporter, you're getting all that information fed to you constantly. If you're on the other side, the Trump side, the MAGA side, you're getting all that stuff fed to you constantly. I think if you're a supporter or a regular watcher, or a follower of, any of the other candidates, you're probably getting a little bit more of a different mix. But nevertheless, you see how everything has become so incredibly polarized. Well, in the last day, we've seen ads come out from, and if not ads, I would say promotional videos. And this is one of the chief ways that both campaigns will be proceeding with their information campaigns, video warfare, if you will. This is the Trump ad that just came out. Let me run this for you. And man, I hope we don't get nailed with a copyright strike, but they're using copyrighted music and we'll run a little bit of it, but here you go. I'm going to pull the music down because it's a Led Zeppelin tune. And so all through it, and then we're just going to get nailed with the copyright. So they'll just take it down. It's all, so this Led Zeppelin tune plays all through this, and you see the imagery, right? This is Trump as president, the Secret Service detail, the parade there, showing, the excitement, the energy that comes with that. Portraying him, I think, is a strong leader. Talking about, America basically getting a raw deal. All the messaging that we've been hearing from him over and over and over again. The supporters. And vowing to release the truth about the JFK files. Kind of touching on a lot of the key things that, MAGA supporters, and I would say even people further over into the more extreme areas of the base, into the Q realm, including messaging directed specifically at them, showing that he's a fighter, showing what he's done with his foreign policy, going to North Korea, showing national pride. Also, there's a clip in here from Ronald Reagan that they use, an audio clip. And there's real, I would say, optimism here, but also highlighting his political opponents from the past and present, including Nikki Haley and Chris Christie, Mike Pence, who people, he's not that popular with the MAGA folks anymore. Showing how he did win and telling people how he can win again. Positivity, even in the face of adversity and lawfare, brought on by these people, the Democrats, globalists, people losing their minds. Because he did win. He was the president. Some say that he's still their president. They feel like he's still their president. Sometimes it does feel like there's almost a shadow government out there. And what a dancer. Yeah. So that's a taste of his video. And I'm sorry, I couldn't play that audio all the way through, where we would just get hammered with copyright. And that would not be good for the channel, wouldn't be good for us. Now, here's Biden in his address yesterday. He says the 2024 election is all about if American democracy will survive. I would say the messaging that Joe Biden has focused on, has chosen to kick off his campaign, is extremely negative, extremely inflammatory. It is, if he continues down this path, and this is continuity. He's being very consistent in his messaging from the day he took office until this speech now. It's all about Donald Trump as a threat to democracy. The biggest threat to America is white supremacists and domestic terrorism brought on by white supremacist groups, namely MAGA supporters. Let's run this clip.
140 police officers were injured. Jill and I attended the funeral of police officers who died as a result of the events of that day.
J6.
Because of Donald Trump's lies, They died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. He promised it would be wild, and it was. He told the crowd to fight like hell, and all hell was unleashed. He promised he would write them. Everything they did, he would be side by side with them. Then, as usual, he left the dirty work to others. He retreated to the White House. As America was attacked from within, Donald Trump watched on TV in a private small dining room off the Oval Office. The entire nation watched in horror. The whole world watched in disbelief. And Trump did nothing. But the democracy is still America's sacred cause is the most urgent question of our time. And it's what the 2024 election is all about. The choice is clear. Donald Trump's campaign is about him, not America, not you. Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past, not the future. He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power. Our campaign is different. For me and Kamala, our campaign is about America. It's about you. It's about every age and background that occupy this country. It's about the future we're going to continue to build together. Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one. But the legal path just took Trump back to the truth. That I'd won the election and he was a loser. Well, so knowing how his mind works now, he had one act left, one desperate act available to him. The violence of January the 6th. And since that day, more than 1,200 people have been charged for their assault on the Capitol. Nearly 900 of them have been convicted or pled guilty. Collectively to date, they have been sentenced to more than 840 years in prison.
I don't know if there's anything to cheer about
What's
or be
Trump
happy
done?
about.
Instead of calling them criminals, he's called these insurrectionists patriots. They're patriots. And he promised to pardon them if he returns to office.
Yeah. Because he has a totally different view on what happened with the last election, and a lot of other people do as well. And that's really what it comes down to, right? What do you believe? What do you think is true? It's difficult to know, really. You see documentaries over here that say this happened. Then you see reports and primetime television specials and what I would say are show trials and show hearings that tell you something completely different. Then you see absolute outright lies about a lot of things coming straight from the mouth of Joe Biden himself, talking about people there dying, police officers who died as a direct result of this action or that action on J6. Officer Brian Sicknick, we know for sure. The original story we're told about him being bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher is simply not true. He did die of a heart attack, apparently, later, but not as a direct result of being assaulted. So there are many inconsistencies, and once somebody lies to you about something, I find it very difficult to believe anything they say after that, because now you know that they might and probably are lying. And then on the other side, I mean, I don't know. You can't excuse the actions of some people, but we're not here to rehash all of that tonight. What we're really here to do is kind of take a look at this campaign kickoff. I would say this, though, the rhetoric coming from Joe Biden, that's dangerous. It's also striking the wrong tone, I think, with me, definitely with me, and I think it probably will strike the wrong tone with voters in general. because it is so negative, because it is directed at Americans. Even if you are opposed to them politically, and even if you think what they did was the result of being misguided politically and a series of bad choices that resulted in them doing something that in your mind was treasonous or constituted an attempt to overthrow the government on January 6th. I don't think it's any cause for celebration to brag about sentences cumulatively totaling 840 years for Americans. I'd say it's a time of sadness, maybe even despair, to see that the country has come to that point that we're sitting here now in a situation like that, where you have about 1,000 people in jail for political reasons, Americans incarcerated. That's pretty extreme. If that doesn't suggest to you that we're facing some sort of a, if not a civil war, then certainly civil unrest, then whew, I don't know what it's going to take to open people's eyes. The country is a powder keg, and it's ready to pop off. Now, you have all this lawfare going on. You have states attempting to take Trump off the ballots. And in Colorado, we're seeing that he is still on the ballot. As I reported, when it was like the day after, because of the way the legal process works, and because the Colorado Supreme Court stayed their decision pending an appeal at the federal level, he does remain on the ballot. And so he is on the ballot as we get into these primaries. Now, the Supreme Court federally has agreed to look at this case, and they will proceed with looking at it. And if they side with the decision to keep him off the ballot in Colorado, then his name will still be on the ballot, but they do have provisions in place in Colorado, they say, to deal with candidates who would otherwise drop off the ballot or would be disqualified. But the ballots are being printed with Trump's name on them. He is still on there as we speak. However, other states are lining up, trying to find a way to get him off the ballots in those states. And then you have other states lining up, prime political figures lining up to support him. Again, battle lines being drawn politically. It's certainly beginning to feel a lot like a civil war to me. I certainly hope it doesn't spill over into something more serious in terms of violence. So, Trump in Iowa today, he's in Iowa speaking to his supporters there, of course, because of the events going on in Iowa at the moment. Today, though, he didn't talk too much about the January 6th event. He just said today that, quote, this guy goes around and says, I'm a threat to democracy. Then Trump said, he is a threat to democracy. You can be grossly incompetent and be a threat to democracy. So as we know, Trump facing those federal election interference charges that stem from his efforts to stay in office. And yeah, Biden said that Trump used every legal avenue available to him to challenge the results of the last election. The key there being he pursued every legal option available to him. Then Biden said that Trump didn't do anything on J6. In fact, he did. You may recall the video that Trump posted telling people to remain peaceful and to go home. And then that was taken down off social media. I find it interesting, though, to witness the second coming of Trump, the reintroduction of Trump and his campaign messaging and his messaging about the last election now being reintroduced to social media platforms, YouTube changing its policy, its rule on what you're allowed to talk about with regard to the last election. Now it's okay to talk about that stuff to a degree. You can at least acknowledge that there's some question there, and Trump can say that on a channel, and you don't get banned. We got our channel banned, so not because of anything I said, but because of what Trump said a couple of times. So it's been very frustrating trying to even cover politics, cover the story, because of the insane level of censorship that the nation has been under. Not just the nation, but Western society in general, Canada too. It's infuriating to have to try and deal with this stuff, man. So, yeah, here's Trump in Iowa today. Let's pick up some of his speech. And he says he's worried about the next 11 months because, there isn't much time left before the next election. And he says that Joe Biden is doing huge damage to the country. And I will let Donald speak for himself.
It's a great honor. Usually what happens is they sit down and then about a minute later they stand up again anyway. And it's okay. I consider it an honor. I appreciate it. Violent criminals are running wild in our Democrat-run cities while law enforcement has been weaponized against Christians and conservatives and people of faith like never before. We've never seen anything like this before. This guy goes around and says, I'm a threat to democracy. No, he's a threat because he's incompetent. He's a threat to democracy. You can be grossly incompetent and be a threat to democracy because he's got us into wars. We're in wars now. You look at the Middle East. Look at what happened in Ukraine. That would have never happened. These things would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. Attack on Israel would never happen. The attack on Ukraine would never have. All these things would never have happened. Millions of people would be alive right now. Millions of people. Cities wouldn't be decimated, knocked down. You look at Ukraine with those towers, those gorgeous towers, ancient towers. They're all dead, gone. Can never be rebuilt. So many millions. I think the numbers are much bigger than what you're hearing. They knocked down an apartment house. These are big buildings, too. It's shocking how big they are. And they say 2 people were injured. No, people were killed. A lot of people were killed. The numbers are much bigger than you hear. It should have never happened. Most of the stuff, almost all of it. I can't think of anything that would have happened. We would have stopped all of it. And we did. And we had no inflation. Now you have inflation that's so bad, the worst, probably the worst we've ever had. China is threatening Taiwan. That'll be next. Iran is inches away from a nuclear bomb. When I was with Iran, they were broke. They were broke. I wouldn't let anybody buy oil. I said, look, I want to be good to them. I want to be nice. They can't have a nuclear weapon. They're, I guess, 31 days away from having a nuclear weapon. It becomes a much different negotiation, a much tougher negotiation. And it's so sad. This would have never happened. They would have had to deal with me within 1 week after the election. But that's the way it goes. We did great in that election. We got millions and millions more votes in that election than we did in 2016. Millions. We did much better than we did in 2016. I was told by the great John McLellan, who's around here someplace. I said, is John McLellan here? John McLellan, the great pollster, who's fantastic, and other pollsters said that there's no way if you get 63 million votes, the same as we got in 2016, there's no way you could be beat. And we beat it by millions. We got the most votes of any sitting president in history. And they say you lost by a whisker, just by a little bit. These people. But you know what? This will be the biggest event in the history of our country. We have to win this, but this will be much bigger than if we did it the more traditional way. And I think we're going to do it. I've never seen spirit like this. We didn't have this spirit in 2020 or 2016, and we had a lot of spirit. We had more spirit than anyone's ever seen, but it's not like it is now, including Iowa. You watch. You got to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. And if you do, you'll see numbers as big as the numbers are being projected until you'll see numbers that are much bigger than that. For instance, Nikki Haley, give me a break. I know her well. I will never run against our president, she said. I will never, ever. He is a great president. I will not run. This went on for like 2 years. Then one day she's making a speech. I said, oh, that's nice. Ladies and gentlemen, I've decided to run. What's going on? What's wrong? And DeSantis was worse because he was dead until I endorsed him. And then he went up like a rocket ship and he won. And then I helped him get through the general election. And, you know, he was so far down in the primary that it was the other guy was measuring carpets in the State House. He actually sent people, please measure my bedroom. I want to put a brand new carpet there. And then I endorsed this guy. And, you know, to me, it's a bad seed. When something like that happens, it's a bad seed. So I got him in and he went up like a rocket ship. One.
Are coming.
Okay, so you've got the idea there. He, he's consistent in his messaging too. And, you know, he's still talking about the last election and election integrity. And those are volatile issues as well. So both sides really very, invested in what you believe. Now I know where I come down on it. I'd never seen an election like the last one. Let's just leave it at that. So I know where I'm at. I suspect you guys know exactly where you're at as well. And probably the majority of you are kind of in alignment with me on that. And for Biden to continue down his path, though, he's not just targeting Trump. He's targeting MAGA. He's making Americans who support Trump part of his target, as much as he's making Trump himself the target. That's why what Biden is doing is different and so incredibly dangerous. Trump is targeting his political opponents. Biden is targeting not just Trump, but also the Americans who support him. Continues to do that, and that doesn't sit well with me. And that's why you're likely to see you're going to see clashes in the streets like you haven't seen before. The last two elections were volatile, to say the least. This one, poof. Man, let's take a look at what the campaign ad for Biden looks like, and then I'm going to show you something that's been done with it. Okay, I believe this is, if I've queued up the right thing here, this is Biden's newest ad.
I've made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency. I believe in free and fair elections and the right to vote fairly and have your vote counted. There's something dangerous happening in America. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching. The world is watching. Most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration, and I ask every American to join me in this cause. America is still a place of possibilities where the power resides with we, the people. That's our soul. We are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Yeah. Some positivity in there, some messaging that appears to be patriotic, but everything comes back to the issue of race, identity politics. That divides people. And when he's talking about election integrity, voting rights, what he's really talking about is allowing people to vote, maybe even without ID. That I think runs counter to voting rights, because if that opens things up to maybe somebody voting multiple times, or if you just don't have very tight rules on voting and security protocols in place, it in fact undermines democracy, because if you don't have public trust and confidence in the electoral system, then democracy itself falls apart. Because you not only need to have an election, you need to have an election that people believe in. People need to know that it's legit. And if there's any question surrounding it, it undermines the whole process. It undermines everything. What good is an election if nobody believes it was valid? That's why they need to do something more to ensure that only eligible voters, people who are legally eligible to vote, are allowed to vote. Now, you can see how that's ramping everything up, right? And I don't know if I've covered all the bases on this or not. I think I probably have. There's just this. Oh, you know what I didn't give you? The reworked version of that. Let me take a quick break and I'll see if I can find that again. I closed the tab, but I think you're going to want to see this. Stay with me.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So people are reworking the Biden ad and saying, this is what the Biden ad would look like if the Democrats and Biden were being honest.
I've made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency. I believe in free and fair elections and the right to vote fairly and have your vote counted. There's something dangerous happening in America. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching. The world is watching. Most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration, and I ask every American to join me in this cause. America is still a place of possibilities, where the power resides with we, the people. That's our soul. We are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together.
Paid for by the Dilly meme team.
Here's another version. People sort of taking some artistic license with this. Let me roll this.
There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching. The world is watching. Most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration, and I ask every American to join me in this cause.
So, yeah. things are getting pretty extreme.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So we really haven't covered Nikki Haley too much. I have to confess, I haven't been that impressed with her. And sometimes I found her rhetoric to be, well, alarming. Honestly, seems like she's ready to blow people up a lot of the time, and I'm not really into that. So today, Laura Loomer, journalist, went to a Nikki Haley event, and well, she received the invite. I guess she got credentials. She was there, just standing with other people as a journalist at this Nikki Haley campaign event, and then she was, well, then this happened. Let me show you.
Might as well just record.
Asked to
What's
leave.
the problem though? We're here for an event. Like I'm just standing here.
I'm asking you to leave.
I mean, like this is a presidential campaign event, right? Can you just explain to me like why you're asking? Why? Can you just explain to me like why you're asking me to leave?
Because they want you to leave.
Why?
It's private property, miss.
Right, but it's an event. I'm standing here. Like, what's the issue?
Will you please gather your things and leave, please?
I don't understand. Like, what's the issue if you work for Nikki's campaign?
They don't
Why?
want you.
Why? I'm sitting here. I signed up for the event.
I told you. That's all I was advised. And now I'm asking you to move from the premises.
What's the point of having town halls if you're just going to kick people out?
It's
She
not my
wants to
call.
be the first female president, and she's kicking a woman out of her event.
I'm not here to answer questions. If you have any comments or concerns, you can contact them.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
here to do security, so please move.
you guys sent me an email. I got your text blast, and it said to sign up for the event. So what is the issue?
I'm asking you nicely,
Well, I think I'm asking pretty nicely as well.
and I don't have answers for you. I'm sorry.
All right.
I just got advised that you must leave the premises, and that's why I'm here. So I apologize. Thank you.
All right. I guess Nikki Haley's anti-woman.
Have a nice day.
So much for freedom of media. And that is what happened with Laura Loomer at the Nikki Haley event today. Yeah, not too positive. In other news, did you see the jet with the blown out window? I guess Alaskan Airlines is grounding its fleet. The Federal Aviation Administration is ordering the temporary grounding of some of these planes, these Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes. Yeah, the window blew right out of the plane mid-flight Friday. I guess there was a kid sitting in one of the seats near this hole that developed in the fuselage, and people were in their seats. Apparently, they had their seatbelts on. Thank goodness for that. And this kid had his shirt sucked right off his body and out this hole, which passengers said, from what I read, was the size of a refrigerator. That's how big the hole was. So it wasn't just that the window blew out, it's that a big chunk of the fuselage came off. This was about, I think, a half an hour into the flight. Anyway, the plane turned around and they made an emergency landing. This decision to ground this particular model of plane affects 171 planes worldwide. Here's a picture of the hole. Let me show you. This is scary stuff. Can you imagine? At that speed, that altitude. There it is. There, you see the hole? There's the seat. It's amazing. Incredible. Scary stuff. I also wanted to revisit a story that I talked about last night. This story about Pepsi products being removed from supermarket shelves, supermarkets run by the Carrefour Group in France and possibly in other countries as well. And this is a result of the government in France telling the grocery store chains that they need to negotiate lower pricing and provide lower pricing on these products or they'll face fines. And I talked about this last night and I explained my view on it, which is that it's massive money printing, it's inflation, which every Western country is suffering from, massive inflation, unprecedented inflation. But but there was an important point that I failed to make last night. To just briefly give you the recap, in my view, from an economic perspective, you have the government printing too much money, much of it in response to the pandemic, much of it in an effort to fuel economic growth. In reality, they're picking the pockets of the poor and the middle class with inflation. So they're printing too much money. That diminishes the value of the currency nationally. That means inflation, higher prices. Then they turn around and they point their finger at the manufacturers of certain goods that have increased in prices, and in this case, supermarket chains, saying that the inflation is really the result of greedy capitalists. And then they order the supermarkets to just lower the prices or face fines. Lower the prices or we're going to fine you. So what has happened? The supermarket chain has decided to just simply remove PepsiCo products from their shelves. That includes a variety of snack foods as well. I think Cheetos and Doritos and certainly soft drinks manufactured by Pepsi will not be on store shelves at all. And so this is a perfect example of how central government planning, how modern monetary theory, how socialism and government control over the economy has unintended consequences. As a result of the massive money printing, the governments then order, because of higher inflation that the government created, the politicians caused the problem, they blame it on the supermarket chain, which has no choice but to raise the prices because the supplier, PepsiCo, has increased their prices over the past couple of years substantially, in one quarter as much as 11%. And then the government says, no, you just have to lower the price. You just have to sell it for less. So the supermarket chain can't make any money with it because if they lower the price too much, then they'll lose money. Pepsi is saying the cost of all the inputs to manufacture these products and ship them to market have increased, so we can't make any money, so we can't lower the price. The supermarket chain then just says, then we won't put any of the products on store shelves. So then you just don't get it. That's the point that I'm making. In the end, you just end up with no product. The government creates an economic environment where it's just not worth it to produce it or to sell it. So this sets off a reverse domino effect. It causes, this is the kind of thing that causes a massive recession and potentially a depression, because now the products are being pulled from the store shelves. That has additional negative economic repercussions, because the factories that produce this stuff now, that reduces the distribution chain, that reduces consumption, that reduces demand. The factories then have less demand, the manufacturers, so they'll cut back on production, or maybe even have to shut down factories. People end up being laid off. That creates more unemployment. That puts more people in a position where they need more free money from the government through social assistance, which fuels more inflation, which starts the whole cycle all over again, causing a reverse negative economic impact. That is the result of government meddling in the marketplace. Bad enough that they create the problem, but then to then layer on top of that additional legislation that prevents companies from reacting in a free market way so that they can cope with the price changes and just trying to impose prices. It's a form of price control. You just made everything worse. That should be a big red flag for everyone, and a clear example of why we can't put trust in government when it comes to running the economy. Everybody looks to the government, and you think that it's the government that's going to solve all your problems. The government doesn't solve all your problems. The government, most of the time, folks, is the darn problem. You have the answers. You have the solutions. Those companies too, they're just big there's entities, right? They're owned by shareholders who, they're not real living things, but they are controlled by people. And that's also you. And that's also why this is dangerous, because if you have these companies that then go into a place of degrowth where they start to shrink and they start to produce less, that affects people's pensions, because people's pension money, it's invested in these companies, the stock market. It just sets off a chain reaction all the way back down the line. And it ultimately affects us as consumers and investors, people's pension plans, everything. Causes all kinds of, like I say, unintended consequences. That's generally the way it works. Let's take a brief break, and when we come back, our guest will join us, Jack McLellan. Stay with me.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, and also returning is Jack McLellan. Jack, how are you tonight, sir?
I am doing good. Rick, let me see if I can here we go. Less distraction. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, by the way.
And you too.
I'm gonna put my hat on to keep the shine down.
I'm so excited to have you on tonight. You know, you've been on the show once before, but it was a long time ago. And I see you have your Veterans for Freedom shirt on. But maybe just take a moment and just reintroduce yourself to our audience, because we have a lot of new people who watch every night who were not
Mhm.
here before.
Well, yes, I was born in Cape Breton. I'm the youngest of 10 children. My dad was a coal miner, couldn't read or write. Can you hear me okay? Is the audio
It's a
good?
little bit muffled.
I can change the audio. I've
Yeah,
got
the
Mastoids on right now. Stand
yeah,
by.
it's
Just give me a second here.
yeah, just a little bit distorted.
Now, is that better?
No, you're not plugged in at all. It hasn't didn't select that audio.
See, I can hear you.
You can hear me, but I can't. There's no audio there at all.
Is there any audio now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
No,
kind
you
of. That's
can't.
okay. Which
We don't have to go with. What I did is I bought a new Mac Air, right? That's what we're on, and
yeah.
I'm not totally tech ignorant, but it's pretty close to it sometimes, right? Um, can you hear me now if I speak
I,
slower?
I can hear you. It's a little muffly. It's a little bit distorted, but I will try to muddle through.
Okay,
Um,
how is that?
that's not too bad. We'll just proceed, and if it is bad, I'll let you know. So
Okay.
again, just tell folks who you are and how you became involved with the freedom movement.
Well, I was an owner operator and trucker for a number of years. I was the spokesman for the first, actually the biggest protest in Canadian history in 1990, 89, 90, when we actually had an 18-wheeler parked on the hill in Ottawa, and we had several hundred trucks at the bridges, blocking the bridges. We were invited into the House of Commons and had our grievances presented by the NDP of the time, which is totally different now, by the way. I don't want to give them any credit that they don't deserve. Um, and we did a presentation into the caucus of the Liberal Party with Lloyd Axworthy, and we met with the NDP and did the presentation in the House to Mulrooney, which we didn't have the people behind us that we did in Ottawa this time. So the results were different. They lied to us through their teeth in Ottawa. I mean, we flew to Calgary, Thunder Bay. We met with numerous representatives federally and provincially, and were given all kinds of promises, and nothing ever came of it. And our grievance back then was the implication, or the way that they brought in the free trade agreement, that like the way they just started training truck drivers in their 50s to go out on the highway and drive, right? And it really hurt the industry. And that was our major grievance, was the way they implemented the free trade agreement. Um, so this time here, I was invited to go to Ottawa by James Bowder, Unity One. I had met him in Kingston, and he had spoken about what he was thinking of doing was doing a bear hug. I think he called it Bear Hug 2 or whatever. And he was going to come back. And when he called me prior to that and asked me if I would go to Ottawa. And he gave me some numbers and names, and I went to Ottawa. And I spent the time in Ottawa there. And at the Arcan headquarters, I got to spend time with Captain Tom Marazzo, retired military captain, a phenomenal individual. I got to meet some wonderful people like Drew McGilvery and the steering committee who started veterans. I'm not a member of veterans, I'm a supporter. The color of the sweater is a supporter. I served 3 years in the militia or reserves. We were called weekend warriors. But the veterans are made up of these men they've sacrificed, even in peacetime, they've sacrificed their lives, trained, and were always ready to go to war for us. And they're a great group of people. So
Yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah, and the reason you're here tonight is because V4F has established a fundraising program, not just this campaign, but a program so that these legal challenges that continue to face many of the people who stood up during the Freedom Convoy, these are ongoing legal challenges, and it takes money, resources, and they have a program set up. And you've written an open letter that I'm going to bring up on the screen here right now. And can you just tell folks what that's all about?
Well, I just got frustrated at reading all the remands that someone like Chris Barber and Tamara and that they hauled Harold Junker through the fire, and the bullies, as I call them. I do not refer to Klaus Schwab or Trudeau or any of these people as members of WEFR. It's a waste of time. They're just like schoolyard bullies, and they push and push and push and push until you decide to push back. And this program they've got in place of enslaving us has been brilliantly thought out and brilliantly implemented. And I'll tip my hat to them that they've done an incredible program of trying to take control of who we are and what we do, take our freedoms away from us. And people don't realize the major one they're doing right now is the same as Justin's father did back when he was in charge. And that was drag people in through the court system and the Revenue Canada system. They did a royal commission back there, actually, after Pierre Elliott left, or even while he was still in government, they started a royal commission. And the idea is just break your spirit. It's to drag you into court. They use our money, the money I pay to taxes, they're using to pay their legal teams and people to hammer our warriors, and that's what they call them. They hammer our warriors into the ground. They'll break you financially. They'll break you spiritually. They'll break your family. They have no mercy. And so Veterans for Freedom had established this fund, which they've been using to help some people, like, Lisa Robinson, a single mom who's been dragged through the coals by her government here in Ontario. Different members, and they've helped them the best they can. But then I come up with this, because there's millions of us, Rick. We're millions. We're not, you know what I mean? We're literally millions. And there's only a couple of hundred at the most of these people that are doing it to us. And so after thinking about it for a while, I thought, you know what? These Canadian citizens, and Americans too, but mostly Canadian citizens, stepped up to the plate and sent us basically $20 million. We're in Ottawa, right? Between Give Send Go and GoFundMe, which I have a different term for. I don't trust GoFundMe. I'll use that. I won't say what I call them. Never did trust them. So it came no surprise that they turned the names and over of the people who donated. None whatsoever. But the idea is that I still believe that Canadians believe in us. They believe in the convoy, and that they would be willing to help us defeat these people. And the best way to do it is just $5 a month. You don't need to send 100. I mean, if you can, that's great, but you don't need to. Just $5 a month. 10,000 people. Go ahead, Rick. You want to say
Yeah, so people are commenting on your audio being muffled. Maybe
Okay.
what we can do is I'll run a couple of promos here, take a little break, and I'll let you get your computer set up there in a different way so that people can hear you more clearly, because this is pretty important. So stick with us, folks. We'll be right back.
Okay. Thanks, Frank.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching. We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Oh, Yeti.
How are we making out? Or do we have better audio now?
Yeti.
Yeah, we'll
How
give
do you
Jack
test
just a
them?
minute more here. Hang on.
Can
Just
we
let him
test
get
them?
things configured.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. Fear not the storm. For truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. How are we doing there now, Jack?
He knows the sound. So he can hear me.
I can hear you.
Still nothing. So what the hell's going on here?
You can't hear me.
Sorry, Rick.
That's
Can you hear
okay,
me at
Jack.
all?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Okay,
the-
now I can.
Yeah,
now I can hear.
your audio is better as well. So
Yeah, I had too many mics plugged in. Sorry, buddy. My lady came and bailed me out.
that's okay.
Is the audio better now?
It is. It's clearer.
Okay,
Definitely.
I have a damaged voice box. I had a parasite in my voice box in 2008 when I was down in the United States running a company, and so my voice is still not 100% healed. So
Well, it was the microphone. It was just muffled
yeah,
and distorted, and this is clearer. So
Okay.
let's just backtrack a bit. And so this is an open letter that you've written in response to, well, I guess the ongoing need that is out there just to provide support for these freedom fighters who are really facing, in the view of many, a form of political persecution. And the plan here, or the program, involves just donating. Well, you're suggesting $5 a month to this fund that is
Yep.
being administered by Veterans for Freedom.
Yes, sir.
And what kind of a difference do you think that can make?
Well, 10,000 people at $5 a month is $50,000. If the funds are administrated properly, which I would trust V4F, like I say in the letter, I would trust any member of the V4F with my life in a heartbeat. They know how to use these funds. They'll make sure that as each trial comes up, as each person faces hardship, myself, I want to see no cost to the individuals at all. Not travel fees, not meals, not hotels, nothing. We should be able to cover the complete cost of every individual that's being persecuted by the government. They're using our money to persecute them, and I believe that the millions of us can turn the cards on that. And the government's going to get tired of it, and we're going to beat them, and we're going to win because we have a moral obligation to support our warriors. And so, gosh, I mean, it's like in the letter, it says, you know who you are, as we do. I remember the tears that were shed and the hugging and the love that was in Ottawa. And watching on the sides of the roads as everybody went by, waving flags, they were standing out there in bitter cold with their children and their families. And we were their hope. We were their hope that we could change things in Ottawa. And on the stage in Ottawa, I had the opportunity to speak. And I said, you're not going to like what I have to say. And maybe there was 25,000, 50,000, I didn't count them. I said, you're not going to like what I have to say. Thank God for COVID. You know, and I did get a bit of a quiet hush there. And I said, let me explain. If it wasn't for COVID, we would never have torn the scab of corruption of what's going on in this country. The madness of immigration. I know we all come from immigrants, but immigration has to come in regulated. It has to come in with a fairness. It has to come in with an honesty to give the immigrants themselves the opportunity to assimilate into a society that they're definitely not used to. And yet, I don't blame immigrants for doing the best they can to try to get here and stay here. They're coming from war-torn countries. My niece spent 5 years with the UN in Kabul, and she told me horror stories of what goes on and what she has seen. And she cried many a night trying to get her people that she become friends with out of that country. And I know immigrants. I know I had a personal friend who watched his sister tortured, his parents murdered. And believe it or not, he's got no hate in his system, but he lives here now and he's very happy and joyful. And our warriors should have that same opportunity. They put their jobs, their lives, their careers, their families on the line to bring this to the attention of the Canadian people, who in turn stepped up to the plate and sent us $20 million, who the government froze. $5 a month, if the government tries to track and trace and control people with $5 a month, it'll cost them millions. It'll embarrass them beyond anything they've ever been embarrassed about. And so I believe that the $5 a month, every month, right, just $5 a month will be the keystone. And I think a lot more than 10,000 people are going to donate. It's like the charitable programs. A lot of people, I have a program I'm building called Operation Dignity, to provide warm clothing and just food and everything for the needy and the houseless. I don't call them homeless, I call them houseless. If an individual is sleeping in a dumpster down behind, on Dubon Street in Toronto, that's his safe place, that's his home. So I don't call them homeless, I call them houseless. And so the whole idea is that the Canadian people, like the charitable side, what I was going to say is a lot of people quit giving money to charities because they were exposed for administration. They drive Mercedes, travel in the world on what should be money going to the people that need it. And I've developed a program I'll release eventually on a program that's self-administrative. It really is. It administrates itself. So that's the same thing here. I believe there's Canadians out there right now that are asking, where did the convoy go? Like, what are they doing? Like, what is the progress? And the mainstream media should be all, as you were with CTV for 25 years, I think.
Yep, that's right.
You must be disgusted by what you're seeing in the mainstream media. They lie. Toronto Stars should be dragged out in the building, burnt to the ground. Everybody emptied in the building, just literally leveled. The level of corruption, the pain, the anguish, the lies that they've caused is beyond off the chart. So I think there's Canadians out there that are looking for, if you want to call them heroes, great. I call them warriors. They're looking for people to stand up on their behalf. And I think they found them in the Harold Junker, in Tamara, in Chris, in the Coots 4. Look at the Coots 4. They haven't even had a trial. How long have they been incarcerated without even a trial? That's I'll tell you what I've been listening to. On Spotify, it's called Adolf Hitler, The Rise and Downfall. And the similarities of how Hitler took control of the masses, the similarities, and I've been a hypnotist for 44 years now, right? I call myself a master of the art of the power of suggestion. And so I observe people, and I see trademark things and patterns. And the pattern that Hitler and his cronies, his madmen, put in place is identical to the pattern that the bullies are using now. Identical. Fear, mass fear. People go, well, this is hypnosis. No, it's not. This is mesmerism. This is a fear brought to a level where people just react. They're so terrified, and they believe they're by themselves, that they're loners. In Ottawa, every individual, if I recorded them, they'd said to me with tears and running down their face. I walk the streets every night in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I got the same response. I had people just bawl their eyes out and say, we thought we were alone. Thank God for the truckers. We thought we were alone. And the truckers in turn ended up saying, thank God for the citizens who came, brought us food, and money, throwing money into the windows of the trucks, and bored of cold. I mean, I saw people out there with T-shirts on, right? Because they'd given their jackets to other people that were cold. I mean, that they're Canadians, right? I mean, I get emotional. Sorry.
No, it is an emotional thing, and the letter itself is emotional. You can, you. I'm just going to bring it up here so I can read a little bit of it. He says, who you are as we do. You stood on the bridges and on the side of the highways and roads, waving flags and signs, smiles on your faces, tears in your eyes. But most of all, you portrayed the picture of hope. People from all walks of life stood in the bitter cold winds, minus 41 for some, running low on fuel and money, hungry, tired, yet unwavering in your goal to let the convoy know you believed in us. Thousands traveled to Ottawa and walked the streets, showing us you believed in what we were doing. You hugged us unashamedly. Our ribs can attest to that. And shared your hearts, sometimes with broken English. And it goes on. And what do you want people to do with this letter, Jack?
Well, it says there, I want this to be a one-page letter. Please keep it so. I had 800 members in a Diamonds Owner-Operators Association back in 90. And we did a lot of what we did with one-page newsletter. That was it. We just handed it out to anybody and everybody. We put it on, like, stores where you go frequently. We just said, hey, if you read this, would you agree to put it up? 99% of people all put it up. They handed it out. They scanned it, emailed it, and so I think we can do the same with this. And if it takes us 3 months to start coming up with $50,000 in the kitty, and 5% of the money goes to assist. Sorry about the hand wave.
That's okay.
5% of the money will go to assist veterans, and there's 242,000 veterans in Canada right now. Many are suffering from PTSD. And a lot of PTSD is caused by going off into a war theater and then coming home and realize it was all for nothing. You left your family. Maybe I have friends who can pull their shirts up and show you scars of surgery where shrapnel bullet wounds hurt them. And that's what sets them off into a PTSD. More than the actual violence is the feeling that you did it for nothing. So I think just hand it out to everybody, stick it up, post it. And if someone says, I don't want it, rolls up and throw in the garbage, don't take offense. They're just not aware of what's going on yet.
Yeah, it says right here in the letter, I hope and pray that many of you will copy and share it, drop it at the hairdressers or your frequented stores, and hand them out at work, parties, and events where people gather. Hand it to strangers on the street and post it on every surface you can without getting fined.
Yeah.
Talk it up and share the bullies. And that is all they are, that are pushing us around like we are less than they are in some way, are using your and my tax dollars to persecute those who stood up for us and refused to be coward. So I guess share it online, put it up on bulletin boards at the supermarket, hand it out to friends, and people you don't know. Just get the word out and try to generate some support for these guys who have really made a big sacrifice by standing up for freedom.
I don't put my name on very much on anything really, and I try to keep a very low profile. But they got me for 30,000. The Revenue Canada, they messed up my accounts for 30,000. It cost me more than that just to fight them. But I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. This government. I got asked the other night who I'm going to vote for. I'm not afraid to say I'm going to vote for Pierre Bolivar. He's the lesser of two evils. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it. He's the lesser of two evils. But I'm anybody on here, and maybe Pierre will watch this. I'll tell him now. He's making a lot of promises. Ending mandates, right? For one, the carbon tax. I can go on now and on. He's got promos up there. Yeah. I'll tell you this much right now. The first promise, if he gets, not if, I'm sure he will gain power unless Dominion voting machines do like they did the last couple elections. We'll put, there'll be 10,000 trucks in Ottawa. Because it can't be tolerated. We cannot tolerate this government to go another step the way it's going. And people talk about violence and guns. No, it's not the way to do it. The way to do it is $5 a month. Put the legal teams to work and hammer these bullies back into the ground where they belong, using the existing laws and the existing courts, right? And get rid of the corrupt judges. They've got to go. Our judges should be voted in to their positions by the communities they live in. People who can say, like they know you know their track record. This being appointed stuff, they're butt kissers for whoever appoints them. And you see the mess with this United States thing. All these appointed people, like these judges in the lower courts, destroying the country, just trying to destroy it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'm absolutely on the same page with you. We can take the country back, but it has to be done through the courts. That's a big part of this. It has to be done politically, and that means, not just showing up every 2 to 4 years to cast ballots, but to get involved politically in a party to help develop and push forward specific planks in party platforms to make sure that the issues that you're concerned about are addressed by a party at the party level that they then take into the political arena during an election. You have to get involved at that point. Otherwise, you're not really fully exercising your voice.
After 3 years of observing, right, with my experiences in training, after 3 years, it was one thing I've noticed, and it really came to light when I joined a group called Civis for Reform, and the individuals in there, Mark Udasheni, Martin Broadman, and they put it together. I met both of them in Ottawa, and they're unique individuals. I mean, they're not afraid to speak their minds, and they're not afraid to step up to the plate and do what's got to be done. But they joined forces together and sat down and figured out this program, CATS. And I hope I can get it properly. It's accountability, community accountability, transparency, CATS, CAT, whatever, and transparency. But the idea is that, and Maggie Braun has been a guest on the show and is a member of Civis. Do you know that name, Maggie Braun?
I do.
Right.
Yes.
And so Maggie does that. And so we realized these people took control at the local levels with the GCOM, which is the Global Covenant of Mayors. This all started back in the 90s when Mulroney signed us on to Agenda 21. And it accelerated into this Agenda 2030. They changed all the local towns and stuff and got rid of all the regular small mayors and made them municipalities. And then basically there's the CAOs and the planners are all manipulated. WSP pretty well has put all the planners in place across this country. I had a big argument in court on a piece of land that they were building next to me. And I found out later that piece of land had been approved by the planners who don't even live they lived in like 100 and some miles away. And I didn't realize then how bad the manipulation, the infiltration has taken place. So civ is for reform. You don't get in unless you've been vetted. The meetings are amazing. No peacocks, no prima donnas, no chest beaters, no people standing up and saying they're heroes. This is a meeting that we meet every Wednesday night at 7:30 online. Sometimes it goes till 10. You can drop it when you want. But what they're doing is they're doing presentations to town councils, and they're building a relationship with the local community councils, and they're educating them and building the relationships. They're not pushing. Now you only get 5 minutes in a town council. You know that, right? To do a presentation, you get 5 minutes.
Mhm.
That is ludicrous. That should be erased. But the idea is they're making headway. We're making headway, and they have bigger plans for 2024. Then with Veterans for Freedom, they're doing their part. They're coupling and across this country, people are starting to become aware. It's at the local level. Yes, we need the federal provincial politics. I wouldn't say I think control is a good word. As a hypnotist, I watched this a while back, and somebody asked me at a party one night if I could explain what happened. It's very simple. The Simpsons, Netflix, Trailer Park Boys, every other mad, stupid show that, people have been distracted. And the male role model has been taken down and had been wiped in the floor mats or the mats on the floor. Respect is being removed out of the families. And so they said, well, what do we do? I said, it's very simple. So you personally first, if you're a believer, get on your knees by the side of your bed morning and night and pray for guidance. But even if you're not, use common sense. Sit your family down at the dinner table at night. When your kids come home, what you ask them is like, say maybe Jamie's 14 or Jamie, how's school? What happened today? Well, Dad, we got a new teacher. Oh, what's his name? Well, his name is this. Well, how do you like him? Well, we really don't know him yet. Okay. Sheila, get on the internet and do a search on this guy. Let's find out who he is. Where'd he come from? What's his background? What's his moral teaching? What is he teaching? It's important issues. Some people call it politics, but you discuss important issues at the kitchen table. How many times have you heard? I was at a Thanksgiving party last year. Somebody asked me, what's going on in Ottawa? I was working with an election team. How's the election going, or how does stuff going? And before I get out of my mouth, the host said, we do not talk politics or religion in this home. That's our issue. That's our problem, is we do not discuss the important issues around the kitchen table, at the workplace, around the water cooler, wherever you go. We have to be up to date and up to speed on what's taking place. That's how they took us over. There's too much apathy, too much complacency, and too much indifference. Everybody has to get off their butts and ask the questions. What are you representing me for? And we have to have a way to remove people who break their promises. And not in 6 months or 6 years, but within 30 days, they should be brought before wherever and ousted and have a by-election or whatever and bring in a new person. It's our own fault. If you want to see the problem and the solution to what's going on, look in the mirror. And I'm not beating people up. I'm just saying that's the thing. Last night, I wanted to mention something about this interview with you. And right away, someone said, if it's got something to do with politics or religion, so I just dropped it.
Yeah, it's difficult to have these conversations with people these days because some people just don't want to talk about it at all. But we've got such serious problems facing us, and those who do want to talk about it are so it's emotional, right? And so especially if you're talking to somebody who doesn't share your views, it can go south pretty quick.
Well,
even with family members.
Well, that's why I tell people, when you're talking to someone, you have to feel them out. Yes, that you very simply just ask them, so Rick, what's your opinion on what's going on? Well, what do you mean? Well, what do you think is going on with this, with these so-called vaccinations? Or what do you think what's going on in politics? And then see what the response is. And if the response is flat, if it's like, the machine, the heartbeat deadline, just, hey, did you watch the hockey game the other night? Robbie Burns said it best. Convince a man against his will, he'll be of the same opinion still. And another one, I actually coined this in Ottawa, dealing with the Liberal caucus. Somebody made a snide remark when we were leaving, walking out the door, where one of our people had just explained how her husband blew his brains out from the stress, right? Sorry. And this guy, I had a suit on, right? Everybody else was dressed in T-shirts and, I had a suit on. He asked me, he said, so what do you do? And he said, are you a lawyer? I said, no. Anyway, we got along talking about a couple of things. And I said to him, I said, you think we're nothing but a bunch of overweight, beer drinking, wife beating, child abusing, dope smoking, fighting and cussing illiterates, that if we weren't driving trucks, would all be on welfare. I said, we're here to show you you're wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And people don't realize I have driven truck. People said, how could you drive over 2 million miles? I quit counting a long time ago, but how could you drive 2 million miles by yourself? I said, I like talking to the most intelligent person I know. But that's the dumbing down process that has taken place in school. The children are taught that they're not the most intelligent people they know. They're being taught that psychiatrists and psychologists and everybody else, authority figures, are where they need to go. 99% of my clients as a hypnotist that I've dealt with have always solved their issues themselves. And I'll tell you what I used to tell them. I'd say, if your friend or family member came to you right now and told you of the issue they're dealing with, what would you tell them? And I'd say, I don't want the answer now. I want you to take a few days, a week, and think about it. Without fail, the majority of them would go back and say, you know what? I tried my own advice. And many of the solutions we need lie within us. And that was shown by the people standing on the bridges. The people standing on the side of those roads, they know what needs to be done.
I've seen, this freedom movement, though, it's changed, it's evolved. I don't even know if there is, whatever it is now, it's not what it was during the convoy. That was unprecedented and probably will never be duplicated again. But where do you think we're at with all of that? I think there's some fatigue out there. Things have changed a lot. We have a lot of different groups trying to remain relevant in some way for people. How is this all going to move forward? Just give me your assessment.
Well, back right after the convoy, we had some convoys moving west across the country, and even some going back and forth, right? And we had members that were going out collecting funds in the cities and towns that they were going to go into, and keeping the funds for themselves. So you always have people going to try to take advantage, right, of situations. And so we had some of those. But the idea is, once you ID them, you ostracize them, right? You cut them out. The freedom movement is very alive. And I'm going to give you Tamara Lich, for example. The first time I saw Tamara, she looked like she was going to have a nervous breakdown. The stresses. I mean, it was on her. The media, even Rebel News, they're not mainstream media at the time, but a lot of stress was on her. She was in the lobby of the Arco Hotel. And I went over and gave her a hug and said, are you all right? And she was just literally shaking, right, to stress. She was waiting for her husband to come in. I think his name was Dwayne. She was waiting for her husband. And he walked in, they hugged each other, and she melted. She melted. Now you look at her today. She has matured into one of the most dynamic leaders. She knows what to do, how to do it, where to do it. But they're tying her up in court. The same with Chris Barber, they're tying them up in court, right? They have to put their lives on hold while they fight this foolishness. The fact Okay, here I wrote a letter of invitation to Michael Chung, who I volunteered on 3 of his federal political battles, or whatever you want to call them, in the Halton Hills. I volunteered on 3 of his. I used to put money to Pierre Bolivier. I used to get Christmas cards from him, at Christmas time with thank yous. And Candace Burgeon, the interim leader, I wrote an email to all 3 and invited them. I said, why don't you come out? I'll escort you with a group. Why don't you come out and meet the truckers on Wellington Street and for yourself and see who's in the cabs at each trucks. Don't buy into the media. Come meet them, talk to them, meet the children, right? None of them come out. None of them come out. So somebody asked me, who should you vote for? I said, you vote for the people that stood on the front line when the goose stepping, whatever you want to call them, the bullies, stepped on people and hurt people and beat veterans. I mean, come on, beat kids, beat veterans. They should all be taken to court, charged, and incarcerated, right? I really believe that. And I think we're going to go to that. I think we're going to go eventually to tribunals. I really do. I think we're going to end up going to tribunals of LEOs, law enforcement officers, military veterans, and common sense people like yourself, everyday citizens, on, say, a 10 or 12 person tribunal, where these people will be brought to answer for what they've done. Right? And it's like, some people might think I'm crazy, but the trials of Nuremberg, I read them when I was like 16. I read and watched some videos. Our biggest mistake in the Nuremberg trials is that nobody was actually given what they deserved. There was like 11, I think. A lot of the bloodline that's bullying us today comes directly out of that same group. Yeah, it's madness.
Yeah.
It comes from the same script, the same playbook. And so you're asking where we're going.
Yes.
First thing is we got to release these people. Harold's on the council in Lincoln, right? He got chopped for granted. They had to give, what was that? I think it was a tractor. He gave a tractor trailer food or something. He was fined by this Lincoln council.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, that's madness. That's complete insanity at its best. And the old saying that the inmates are running the institution is the truth in this case. The federal government's a lost cause. Unless Pierre Bolivier steps up to the plate and keeps his promises, the federal political system is at a loss. I was a delegate for Ford. I wouldn't give you a time of day, a waste of human flesh. He turned his back on us the night of the convention at the International Center in Toronto. He turned his back on us. And when he was being interviewed by, it wasn't recorded or I played it for you, but he was talking to a CBC reporter, Communist Broadcasting Company. He was being interviewed, and she asked him, so how are you going to react to these people who have asked you to do this? And it had a lot to do with Soji and all this stuff, right? A lot of the child pornography stuff that's going on. And he raised his hand and said, ignore them, he said, because I don't pay no attention to that. That was after he got hit. And so at the provincial level, we haven't got a lot of hope. Really, we don't. So the key is to support these people that are fighting the court system and prove at the federal, provincial levels especially that we can't be pushed. And from the ashes, from the phoenix, it's going to rise people of morals and values and discipline. And people of good people are going to rise up and say, I'm going to run for leadership now. I know so many people that I asked them, I said, look, why don't you run? Jordan Peterson's a good example. Jordan Peterson's getting crucified, literally crucified, right? Because he's a free thinker. I'd love to see him as prime minister. There'd be no malarkey, but he wouldn't run. Most people I know that have that caliber of leadership will not run, will not touch it. And so here, when we were in Ottawa in 90, we had spoken to the Liberal caucus, and I had made that statement. And I was leaving and walking. I had left the building and walking down the Ashenville, right? I heard running steps behind me. I turned around, and there was a member of parliament from Assiniboine up north. He said, Jack, can I talk to you? I said, sure. What do you need? He said, there's nothing we can do. He said, I'd love to help you. He said, I know with the trouble you guys are in, but we can't. If we even say one word, he said, I have a clinic being, or I think it was a clinic or a hospital being built in my area. He said, I lose it. He said, that's how they control us. He said, they manipulate and control us. And I thought it was just the Liberal Party. But there was a guy walking up and down in front of the Parliament buildings with a sign. Did you ever see him? He was there for years, walking up and down. And I went and brought him a coffee and said, hey, tell me your story. He said, well, I was a Conservative member on the Hull side. And when he decided to decentralize the Government Revenue Canada and stuff, what happened was when he decided to decentralize, he was looking for, I think he had a school, a clinic, and a couple other, and the Revenue Canada building was going to be built in his area. He got a phone call on a Friday night who said for a meeting that was being held Saturday morning, and he was told to bring $5,000. He laughed, right, because it was at the end of the conversation. He went to the meeting the next morning, and the guy said to him, he said, "You bring the money?" He said, "No." The guy got up and walked out. He was the bag man for Mulroney. He got up and walked out. And that guy never got none of that stuff in his area. And so he started going against the Conservatives and trying to get this in the court and everything. And the last I saw him, he was still walking back and forth in front of the apartment buildings. And he's the only Canadian in the history who's been barred from entering the House of Commons. They had a white line painted on the road, and he couldn't cross it. So the corruption, like I voted Conservative for years, right? I voted Conservative for years.
Yeah.
And the NDP in Ottawa in 90, they even though they went in and read our grievances, brought a station wagon in full of beer and barbecue. They were going to barbecue and get beer. I had a 5-man security team run by a Stony Mountain prison guard who would come over and told me, I said, pick up the car and overturn, do whatever you have to do, we get them out of here. Alcohol at a place like that, come on. So the only hope we have is to, first of all, is push back the beast with the $5 a month. That's all we're asking, right? Push back the beast, and then that'll solve that part. And then you'll start to see the bullies will start backing off as they realize we can beat them in court. The next step is to look in your local communities, in your neighborhood, find and start conversations with people. And don't be afraid that if they don't want to talk important, don't call it politics. Talk about important issues. And if they want to talk important issues, you don't want to know them anyway.
And how can people support this if they choose to?
It's at the bottom.
Yeah, do you? I'll just scroll all the way down here. So, you go to the V4. I guess you could go to the V4F website, right?
No, it's in there. That's strange. Where did you get that?
I had to retype this in order to put.
Oh no! The original the letter itself has the V4F fund.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I don't have the letter in front of me either. Sorry, it's on another laptop. But it's the V4. The link is in the actual letter.
Okay, I'll just bring it up here.
Fund that V4F.
I do have it on my phone, so let me just find it on my phone.
Fund that V4F.
Fund that V4F?
Yeah, dot, but there's a dot in there too. Stand by.
Here we go.
You got it?
Yes, I see. Is it? Oh, no, that's the other one. Hang on. Bring this one up here. Actually, I don't have it, Jack, on my.
Let's see. Let me go.
Oh, here it is. Fund at veteransforfreedom.ca.
That's it. And you, like I'm saying, if you knew, like, Drew was a commander in the Navy, and played his part in dealing with pirates and all this stuff. He's an amazing individual, and he's built on the side, they built a great spot up north in the Haliburton area. And it's a place for veterans to go if they need to, you know. And he's, like I said, I would trust him with my life in a heartbeat, like it says in the letter.
Okay,
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I wrote the letter, is because I knew there was a place for the money to go, and somebody who I could trust to administer it.
And there it is right there.
Thanks, Rick.
Fund at veteransforfreedom.ca.
Yeah.
And I'll just bring this letter up again. And, you know, it is heartfelt. It says send the funds monthly to fund at veteransforfreedom.ca. 50 cents or 10% will be used to help houseless and needy veterans. V4F already has a fund established and is helping those they can. However, the funds are nowhere near what they need to help our courageous citizens win. When the titles are removed and the hype is quiet, we're just Canadian citizens who are fighting for the future of Canada. Thank you for all you've done in the past, and a deep and sincere thank you for any assistance you can provide. May you be greatly blessed in your life.
Well, I wish I could impress upon people the simplicity of the $5 a month. It's so simple and it's so powerful because there's millions of us. I mean, they already proved us. I mean, you know, when the money was in shush, I got to be careful. I say go fund me. When the money was there and the money was in Give, Send, Go, and there was $5,498,000 in a fund down there also, and supposedly there was $1 million come in Bitcoin. But I wanted to take 100 people and cross the border to Ogdensburg and take $9,995, show up under 10 grand, right? And go and pull it at the bank accounts and bring it up and start distributing it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the money I distributed, you know, I remember, I better not say his name, but a really good guy, you know, he owned his own business, and we needed the money, and he just went and got cash and brought cash and gave it to us. We were able to go out and give truckers $5,000 here and $5,000 there for, you know, I used my own credit card to give fuel to one trucker to get him home, right? To get him going home. And none of them were miserable. Not one of them complained that the money program didn't work out and they had to struggle to get back out west of BC and everywhere. I never heard one individual complain. But we did have some turncoats within the freedom movement. And you'll probably, maybe they'll wail on you sometime. Don't even give them the dime a day. I know, not spoiled, they're jealous. They wanted to be the prima donnas. They wanted to be the individuals, the heroes of everything. But, you know, what you do speaks so loud, they can't hear what you say. That's why the Chris Barbers, the Tamara Litz, the Harold Junkers, Harold had 7 trucks, I think, in Ottawa.
Yeah.
7 trucks out of his fleet. And being a trucker, I know how much money that cost him, just shutting his trucks down, paying his driver. You know, I don't think he had to pay his drivers. His drivers went free of charge. They're amazing people. It's an amazing company.
I know there's been, I think the government still has those funds frozen. Some of the money, I think, has been released for use by at least one of the legal teams, but I'm not really sure where things stand with the money that was donated previously. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it was turned back. It was sent back to the people that were registered as the donors, and the stuff that wasn't went to whatever fund the government wanted to send it to. I don't know, like, you know, it's maybe Give, Send, Go might have got some of it to the legal teams, but Tamara, I think it's fortunate that she has the Democracy Fund, I believe, is helping her financially, but I think Chris is in for $150,000. I mean, this is, I'll be honest with you, it would be embarrassing, right? It would be actually embarrassing to have our warriors being persecuted this way, except I know that the Canadian people don't realize what's going on. They don't realize that the Canadian government, provincial and federal, are using our money to persecute these people. I mean, you don't think of the twist in there, right? That every Canadian out there right now, your tax money is being used to persecute the people that stepped up to try to have a voice. Like, look, somebody's talked to me about this vaccination thing, right? Somebody said, like, they said, "Oh, you're going to get the vax." I said, you know, I might have thought about that if it was presented properly, but I said, you got something trying to shove it down your throat, telling you that if you don't get it, it's going to cost you your career. My sons are firefighters. I know, like, here, I'll give you a go. Chris Vanderboos, you know, Chris,
Yep.
Police on Guard. He started Police on Guard. He then developed a company that uses investigative skills of a lot of the members that want to do it, investigating accidents and stuff, you know.
Mhm.
And now he's got his clothing is straight goods. He's got hopefully maybe I'll send you a link and you put it up one day. And his hoodies, his shirts are amazing. He's got Justin Trudeau as a clown. He's got Biden as a clown too. His statements, like his sentences, his phrases, and that are hilarious at the same time powerful. Right, Chris. Well, you know Chris. I think you had Chris on the show.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Well, the first time I met him, if I have time, I'll tell you. I had a couple of rooms booked in the Marriott, which they threw us out and put Antifa in that. Did you know that? They wouldn't. Yes, sir. I'm a Marriott what they call Convoy member, VIP member, right?
Yeah.
And yet, when I went to rebook my room for I was going to book it for an additional 3 weeks. They said, "Oh no, we're full." So we had people go down in the parking garages over the next couple of days, and it was empty. But the Antifa people were walking it there all the time. Now, there was a couple of people, I think Laura Lynn Taylor stayed there, Randy Hilliard. Randy is another one that's getting crucified, getting ripped apart.
Yes.
And it's not right. It's not right. If there's some people that will say, I don't like Randy, or I don't like this person, or I don't like that person. Pat King's a good example. So people will say, I don't like Pat King. I don't care if you like him or not. It's got nothing to do with likes and dislikes. You don't have to invite him home for supper. And I met Pat and I told him outside a meeting, I said, if I was in a firefight, you'd be the first person I want next to me. Because his passion is at such a level, right? And I said, but you'd also be the first person to die. Because you let your passion overrule common sense. But that doesn't take anything away from Pat King. Pat's an incredible individual. I mean, he is a fighter, a warrior, and work go. And if you want to go to war, he's the man you want to have next to you. So, where are we going with this anyway? So,
well,
the future.
The future. Where, what does the future look like? Because I'm not real clear on that. I think 2024 is going to be a pretty rocky year, but I just don't know how it all galvanizes.
Where it'll galvanize is very simple. Lou Holtz, who I had the pleasure of chauffeuring one time in a business I was in, Lou Holtz came to speak and had the pleasure of driving that man to his private airplane when he was coaching Notre Dame. Lou Holtz went down and coached a team in Florida. And what he was telling me is that the first thing I do, he says, I walk into the dressing room or on the field where he's out with his guys, and he picks up a football. He says, gentlemen, this is a football. He said, the job is to move that football down that field over that last line, he said, before the other team does, period. That's all you need to know. And he said to me, he said, Jack, you need to keep things simple. So here's the simplicity. Please send $5 to veterans. And by the way, you'll probably get an email back once a month or whatever. It might take some time to set it up. Like with the other money now, they send us ballots because there's not enough, so we vote where we think the money needs to go. It's a very, very upfront, honest system. But we get emails all back when we send the money, right? And they'll probably set that up. That's number one. Send the funds, sit back and watch. Talk to your neighbors. And like you said earlier, you got to be careful with family, right? So ask them, what do you think? I have family that prior to or during the convoy, they don't want to talk about nothing. Don't bring it up. Don't mention it. Even that's it. They're the ones now who say anybody comes near me with a needle, the only shot they're going to get is from a Smith & Wesson 38. I mean, people are becoming aware of what's going on. I've had 2 brothers now that were vaccinated. One's already gone with triple cancer. We laid him down to rest. I think it was in February or March last year. Sorry. And I have another brother who's got triple cancer. Right. The only keeps him alive is that he was a phys ed teacher in the military, and he was in great shape. I know others who have got the shot and they're dying slow but sure. So the idea is that don't, like in the letter, I originally had the jabbed and unjabbed, right? With folks from all walks of life. This is not about the jab. It's not about the vaccines. This is just very simply about choices, being allowed to make your own autonomy, but your own choices, right? And so keep it simple, keep the conversation simple, ask people what they think. And then if the conversation opens and they think, well, I feel helpless, I don't know what to do, send them to Civis 4, the number. I'll send you the link, maybe you can post it, civis4reform.org. Just send them to that link and they can check it out themselves. And we meet every Wednesday night at 7:30. And the meetings are a pleasure, absolute pleasure to be in. There's no peacocks, no chest beaters, like I mentioned earlier. There's nobody trying to be a leader. And our chairperson, if you want to call him that, Mark, runs an incredible meeting. It's a lot of highly indulgent people, a lot of people becoming aware. By the way, when you talk to people, you have to realize not everybody might be up to your level of understanding, your level of awareness. So be fair, like ask questions, and if they're only aware to a certain level, keep it there. People don't try to shove it down their throats because they're the bullies then, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing. Speak to your family and your friends around the kitchen table, bring them up to speed on what's going on politically at the local level, town councils. Become aware of the bylaws in your area, the stuff of UN now has got all these speed bumps and traffic circles. Have you noticed that? And the speed limits all dropped down. All these CAOs in the municipalities now are dropping them all. And
yes, I've noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, and they get 6,500 houses built. You got towns that are signing on to the 15-minute cities. They're getting 5 million deposited into the coffers of their town councils. Like, how you stop that is be aware of what's going on. Find out who your ward representative is, your reeve or your ward. Call them up, email them, contact them. Say, I want to talk to you. What's your opinion of this? Where do you stand on this? Where did you vote on this? What's going on is our mayor a member of the GCOM, Global Covenant of Mayors? How long has he been a member? Has he signed his allegiance to this? Or did he take an oath out to represent the people locally in our community? Right? I mean, here in Scugog, where I'm at, they have like 13 or 15 committees, right? These committees meet during the day. So you have to be retired to go to it to start. They're chaired by a counselor. They post vacancies, and then you got to meet criteria to get on there. They're really useless, I think, my opinion. They're controlled. They're totally controlled. And you get 5 minutes at a town council to state your point. But Maggie Brown and the Gathered 2030, by the way, on Facebook, Gathered 2030 is her connection. And she, and I can't think of Sheila's last name, they do town council presentations. And what they do is they do, 1, 2, 3 or something, because they only get 5 minutes, but they get the message across. They find out what mayors and what councillors know what's going on. And there's councillors who have broken down in tears, have no idea that their mayors signed on to the UN agenda. The climate crisis thing, right?
Climate change.
Yeah. If they declare a climate crisis, They get X amount of money. They get X amount of promises, right? I mean, that's only allowed to happen because we don't take control. We don't take charge of our own futures.
And you did touch on this, but people will have a level of control over how these funds that are donated are distributed. Because explain again how how people can vote on who gets the money.
Well, that's right now. Right now, because the money is down low, like it's 1,500, 2,000, stuff like that, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 people. The donators, they send us a ballot by email. They send us a ballot, and we can vote who we feel needs to get the money. But when these funds come in, I would prefer that there's no voting. What they do is that the steering committee or the members that are administrating the fund will say, okay, Harold Jonker's up in court in Lincoln, right? His lawyer's $4,000 for this round to go around or whatever, 2,500, whatever it is, and make sure that Harold's got the money in his account or they pay the lawyer directly, right? And then say Pat King is going up next week. So the funds are there for the individuals as they go into court, as they go through the process. And I'd like to see their flights paid for. I'd like to see it doesn't cost them a dime in their own pocket. They're not doing this for themselves. None of them. Not Pat, not Randy, not Harold, not Tamara or Chris, none of them. Or the Coots for. None of them are doing this for glory of themselves. They're doing it because they know it's the right thing to do. Somebody somewhere has, it's like the bully in the schoolyards when I was a kid. Born and raised in Cape Breton Island. We had our share of bullies. And somebody has to step up to them someday and stop them. And when you step up, they stop. They're cowards at our heart.
Yeah, and you said you don't even have to like these guys. It's about supporting people who have made a sacrifice that you maybe don't agree even with everything that they stand for, but they stood up at a time when Canadians needed people to stand up, and they did. And even now, how many years has it been?
3, I think.
Yeah, 3. I mean, and it's still going on.
Look at the Goods Fort. Look at the Goods Fort. They haven't even had a trial. Look at Pastor Pawlowski. I told people, I said, when you see pastors and ministers not being persecuted, that's a serious indicator that something has really gone rotten. That's a serious indicator. And the RCMP, that Lucky, before this thing ever started, I was told Lucky is as corrupt as she's in the pocket of Trudeau's pocket. That RCMP commissioner. The one before her wasn't much better.
Brenda Lucky, you're talking about Brenda Lucky, yeah.
Yeah, and Inkster was the one before her. He wasn't any better. But I know OPP officers. When we did the protest in '90, Cam Woolley. Do you know that name?
No, I'm not familiar with him.
Well, Cam Woolley was the liaison officer of the OPP who dealt with us, and we became friends. I mean, we had no issues. I mean, we traded information. I don't know what we were going to do. He'd tell me what we were going to do. We kept it very gentleman and very friendly, and we became friends through it. And so we didn't have any issues of violence. The only issue of violence we had was created by CHCH 11 because they wanted a video shot. They sent this hot-looking spray-painted jeans on her, and I said to her down to the Fort Erie Peace Bridge. Somebody said, Jack, you better get a wind. You better look at this. I said, what? I look over and she was right at the pages of Hollywood, right? And she's talking to a couple of guys in Harley t-shirts with their bellies hanging out because nobody had time to go get fresh clothes. And I went over and I said, excuse me, can I help you? And she had CHCH 11 on the thing, right? Mm-hmm. And she sent me CHCH 11, da 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 da. I said, would you mind doing me a favor? I said, what? I said, can I look at the bottom of your boots? She said, well, why do you? I said, just, can I look at the bottom of your boots? She looked at, they're brand new boots, brand new jeans, brand new belt. You know what I mean? They dressed her up to try to make her look like she was a truck-friendly individual. Then we had 2 trucks that showed up earlier. Actually, I'll say the name because I'm still discussing with them. Challenger Freight had 2 bobtails that came down, and when I asked them, what are you doing here? Oh, they told us we should come and support you. Two of those guys started a fight, and CHDH 11 filmed it. And out of all the filming she did, the only 11 seconds that was shown was the fight.
Right.
And that's the only issue that we had in the entire thing at any point. I mean, we had a great relationship with the Ottawa police. We had a great relationship with the RCMP because that Gestapo group there, what they call PPS, Parliamentary Police. Yeah, they're like the Gestapo, no different than the brown shirts. They were not even in existence. The RCMP looked after the Hill, and we had a great agreement with them, the OPP, everybody. There was a threat at one point with the OPP where we had busloads of riot police in Pickering at the Freightliner dealership. Cam said we got about 4 busloads of riot gear guys. Like, where are we going with this? And we talked, and there's no need for the riot gear to come out, right? But we still accomplish what we want, right?
Yeah. So you say that you would vote for Pierre Poilievre if you've given up on the PPC and Max Bernier?
Actually, gosh, I got a friend running for the BPC here in the by-election here, Trish Conlon, and she's so passionate. She's a great individual. I'd love to see her win. She would be wonderful for the area here. And I ran provincial. I didn't run. I was the president of the New Blue Party of Ontario. Like the New Blue Party. I wouldn't give you a plug nickel for Carriolio sort of party. Sorry, but I just speak the truth. Like, Max can't even win his own seat.
Yeah.
And I said he'll probably get the same seats he got the last time, 0. But but I'll give Max this. He's at all rallies pretty well. He shows up. He showed up in Ottawa, right? And he's passionate. I'm not sure what's missing in the makeup. I don't know if they have a propaganda program against him or what, right? But some of the people I've met at PPC, I wouldn't give you a plug nickel for.
Yeah. Well, I've got some thoughts on that too, but not really my place here right now to get into all of that. But I think your assessment is pretty accurate, and it's difficult to when you absolutely need the change as desperately as we do. It's tough to put the support behind somebody or a political party that really isn't on a road to victory. You want to make sure that you get the change that you're hoping for. What do you say to these people who just say, "I don't trust Poilievre"?
Well, yourself, right? The propaganda machine, when it starts rolling, just like as a hypnotist, I watch it. I tell people, if you want to see real propaganda, turn your TV on, right, and turn off the sound, and just watch the picture. It's like buying a beef wrap sweater or buying a car. You think, oh my God, I got a great car, and then you look down the street and you realize, oh, my neighbor's got one. Oh, the guy at the corner's got one. You become aware of things, right?
Yeah.
So I always teach people self-hypnosis to start with, but don't watch TV and turn the sound down. You'll be shocked at how you start saying, what's that doing up on the shelf? And what's that guy doing back there? You know what I mean? It's subliminal, right? It's all subliminal message. Then I'll tell them, okay, you can't turn your TVs to black like you used to be able to. So I don't turn the sound up, but put a blanket over the TV and go about your business. Washing dishes, whatever. Just leave the sound on. You'd be shocked. How many times you'll go over to that TV and lift up that blanket because you want to know who's saying what's being said. You know who it is? The Simpsons. It's a lot of it animated cartoons. They get away with murder on this animated cartoon thing. It's Trailer Park Boys, right? Like, I've worked in the movies. Okay, I was a principal speaking in the 684 cast. I was number 11 member, but I also worked with Netflix here, and I hold their equipment around, right? We set it all up, go to locations. So I held one trailer called the Suits. We called it the Suits. There's like a couple $1 million of super suits in them, The movie was called The Boys. The movie is called The Boys. And somebody said to me, Jack, have you watched that movie? I said, I haven't watched TV in 15 years or listened to the radio. And so but I went home and I put on the Suits on YouTube. You remember how when we were kids, we had Superman and Batman and the Flash and Green Lantern and all those guys, right? And, you know, you had Bob Hope on the back saying, you know, live the golden rule. And you had the guy Atlas selling the muscles, you know.
Charles Atlas, yeah.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, all you got was the books.
That's right. That's right, yeah.
No muscles. So, yeah, but I mean, those magazines, I mean, classic comics and all these comics were designed to make us feel good about ourselves, right? Made us feel like we could accomplish something in life. Well, you watch this show called The Boys, pure pornography. Like all these superheroes can fly and they get X-ray vision and they got all this, but they use it. The leader uses it to get his way with women and other superheroes. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And then I watched that night and never went back. Never went back to the movie industry and never will. It's disgusting what the movies that Netflix has put. Now, of course, Obama is a board member. So basically, where are we going with this? So we're okay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
What you have to do is you have to really be careful of everything you watch and hear. 680 News after 9/11 changed their slogan. Because the world has changed, you need 680 News. You ever heard that? Because the world has changed, you need 680 News. It's all subliminal. You can go to California and turn on 680 News, and you'll hear the exact same syndicated message that you hear in Portland, Oregon, Portland, Maine, Dallas, Texas, and I've been all these places. You hear the exact syndicated message. You have to be very, very careful what you're listening to on radio. Well, actually, a leader one time, I've had the pleasure of sitting with millionaires and billionaires and being taught by some of them. And I still remember the guys that you always ask, why is that person saying that? Even now, when I'm saying what you're saying, people should be saying, why are they saying that? What's the purpose behind it? Like, what is the reason behind it? More than just the words. And that's the key, is listen to everybody like Paulie Beer. You need to listen to what he's saying. You need to listen to all of them. Trudeau discussing that I can't stand his voice. I cannot stand him or her. And it's Krista Freeland. You know, if there's body snatchers, somebody's got hers. Because, you know, she's like, I have an essential tremor, okay? It's a family genetic thing. And my head will shake sometimes, but she's like.
I know she has some sort of a disorder. She's on some sort of a drug, I get that.
I think it's guilt. I think it's her guilt. Her guilt sets off her anxiety. And her anxiety triggers the reactions, right? She's like, when are they coming with the noose? But the key is to be careful what you listen to. Be careful even what you read, right? And ask yourself, why are they saying it? Why is this written this way? Like Toronto Star is a rag. Absolute rag. Global Mail has gone the same way. They're all gone that way.
Yeah.
They're all
Well, I mean, you're obviously paying very close attention to the way media is being used in this information war. You understand hypnosis. And when I look at people on the other side of the spectrum, the kind of people who even now still support Justin Trudeau, it seems to me that they are being bombarded with hypnotic, mind control, information warfare. What is it? Why do people still support that guy?
Because the mainstream media, who, as you know, CTV and the rest of them, who should be like a Walter Cronkite, you know, don't comment on the news. I mean, you can give your opinion, but present the truth, and you don't see the truth. The truth is hidden. What's her name? I had the pleasure, Christine Anderson. I had the pleasure to give her a hug and meet her and give her a gift at a function that Harold Junker had set up, and Tim and those guys. And I watched her over in the European Union stuff there, and she speaks the truth. We need a whole bunch of Christine Andersons in this country. We need people that speak the truth and aren't afraid to say it. And we need to erase these media. This CBC, it's trash, absolute trash. I knew in 1976, I lived in Ottawa and had a business there, Holiday Juice. I had a business there, and I was invited to go to St. Patrick's School for they had parachuted. They didn't use the word back then. They parachuted in there Jean Robert Gauthier. He was a candidate that the Liberal government was putting into that riding. So we go in, and the school's got a when you go in, it's got the drop like a theater, and it's got the double decks back here, right? So I went up and set myself up in the far left, and another gentleman went up and sat in the far right. And just before it started, this guy came up to me, and I said he was with the CBC. He came up to me and he said, "Sir, would you mind coming down here?" He said, "We want to close off the partitions, like these motor-driven circular things." I said, "No, I'm quite comfortable where I am, thank you." "Oh no, sir, we'd really like, oh gosh, the Minister of Unemployment, Bud Cullen." I said he's the Minister of Unemployment, Bud Cullen.
Mhm.
He was there, and a couple others. I said, and he's, "Oh, well, Minister Cullen has personally asked you to move." I said, "I don't give a cat's rip." You know what they do? They were going to close us in. They actually turned the keys, and we're going to close over to where your cameras wouldn't get us. And they moved people around. We stepped out, obviously, but they moved people around so that every camera angle made it look like the school was full, absolutely full. And that was the CBC back then. That was the CBC back then. And they're horrible now. They're worse. And Trudeau's snide remark about, the reason they do what we want is because we give them $600 million. That should make every Canadian. There was a guy this morning. I was in Chinatown, and I was going over to get some dim sum, and there was a guy sitting on the sidewalk, like sitting down on the cold, icy sidewalk, barely covered over. You know that. And I'm thinking, like, there's something wrong with society. I'm not saying we shouldn't have poor people, because that's their own decision sometimes. But when we have the numbers we have today, the psychiatric units have been closed. How many? Brockville, psychiatric unit in Whitby, right? Where did all these people go? Oshawa, where I frequent, the zombies, what we call zombies, I'll tell you why we call them that, are unbelievably numerous. So I haven't been in Oshawa for quite a while. I play harmonica and I jam with some friends. I go out to play with them. This is a couple of years ago. I go to play with them, stop at Tim Hortons, call them up and say, "You guys want a coffee?" And the guy who answered the phones passed away now. He said, "Where you at?" I said, "Well, I'm at Bloor and Wilson area." He said, "Get out of there now." I said, "What?" I said, "Jack, get out of there." He said, "It's coming on 9 o'clock. You got to move." I said, "Come on, Bobby, what are you talking about?" He said, "The zombies are going to be coming out." He said, "That's one of the worst areas." So I went over to my car, and as I'm getting in the car, I see all these people walking down the alleys, and they're not walking, they're shuffling. They're shuffling down the alleyways like they're lost souls. And then I really started to see them. I stopped one time on Simcoe Street in the freezing January day, and I don't mind sharing my blessings. And so I waited in the driveway for this guy to come up, because I saw he had no socks on, just shoes that were crushed down, and he was going through the frost. And so I get out of the car, and I went up to him, and I had a bill, and I handed him the bill. He took it and he looked at it like he had no recognition. I looked in his eyes, and they were dead. And I have seen hundreds of people now. There's no life in their eyes. They're zombies. They have no, that's not right. That's up to us as a society to put in place, right? Put in place programs like Operation Dignity, which I've developed. Operation Dignity is a program where you take a snowmobile suit, and the reason why I picked this is that I once went to sleep at Dixie Road in 401 in a foot of slush underneath my tractor trailer because a wire had broken and I couldn't find it. I was under there for 40 minutes trying to find it. I was tired, but I wasn't cold. I was exhausted from other things, but I actually went to sleep underneath my truck in a foot of slush because I had a snowmobile suit on balaclava and everything. I was dressed warm, and an OPP woke me up and told me I couldn't work there. So I know the value. And the snowboard
Yeah.
suit, you can unzip on both legs and zip down and tie your arms around and go into a Tim Hortons, get a coffee. So I've designed a program where you take this and you vacuum pack it with everything, clean underwear and toothpaste and everything a person needs to make them feel like they're human. And you vacuum pack it, and then you give it to first responders, the people who deal with the zombies and the homeless or the houseless and all these people. You give it to them, ambulance drivers, firefighters, hostels, and you just give it to them and let them, if old Charlie comes up and gets one and goes off and sells it for a bottle of wine, comes back and wants another one, give it to him. It's not up to you to decide where your money goes. Let the guy dealing with old Charlie would maybe at the third one say, okay, Charlie, that's it. You know what I mean? Because he knows Charlie. And so by keeping people warm, first of all, you raise their BTUs. So your BTUs don't get burned out so quick. So you don't need as much food, right? And there's probably 200, 300 buses from the TTC that just sit there, and there's buses all over the place, coaches, graveyards that could be refurbished. And the whole idea behind this, not right, Dr. Michael Chung, MP, is an in-kind tax donation. Do you know how that works?
Yep.
So an in-kind tax donation is 100% of the money you give is 100% tax deductible. And so using the SKU at a restaurant, like, a POS, point of sales places, they would have a sign outside that says something to the effect of, we are a participating member of Operation Dignity. And then when you pay your bill, it pops, would you like to donate to Operation Dignity? And the minimum you can give is $1. So if these suits cost, and it's that cost, if they cost, say, $100, and you give $100, then that money is automatically sent to the manufacturer, pays for another suit. So when he ships his suits out, even the trucks that haul them don't lose any money because it's all covered under in-kind tax donations. It's all write-offs. The government's got nothing to do with it except to sign the government doesn't have to administrate any of it. And I already have accountants that can handle all the very stringent, honest, upbeat accountants who can handle the money movement. They'll do that. But the idea is that a friend of mine who passed away, and she was brilliant, I put it in front of her, like I would do you. I put it in front of her and said, here's what I want to do, right? She said, well, why stop there? She said, my niece works with Covenant House in Toronto. It's for youth, right? Says works with Covenant House. These young men and young women, especially young women, they go in and have a shower, put the same filthy underwear and clothes on that they had on when they come in. That's disgusting. I mean, how do you make a person feel human? So these vacuum bags could have, lingerie or whatever they need. They could have clean underwear, thermals for young guys and that. And just when they shower, they can put clean clothes on.
Yeah.
You can't solve their issues. Okay, it's like the old thing. Don't ever try to preach the gospel to somebody who's hungry. You're wasting your time. So don't try to get people that feel dirty and miserable. You can't teach them to uplift themselves. Dress them, give them a warm meal. All I was saying, I'm sorry about these buses. These buses could be renovated by firms, trucking firms and stuff, because it's all, again, tax donation. It's all write-off, and they can put their name on the side of it. These buses can be turned into rolling soup kitchens, even showers, instead of showers in 53-foot tractor trailers, because we have to rescue these people. It's beyond the scope of just a CAMH. It's beyond that scope. They don't have like Trafalgar, the new hospital, we helped build it. The Trafalgar Hospital, they got one floor that's psychiatric, and they can handle the influx. And not just that, you only have a 72-hour hold on people that are getting what's called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or psychotropic medications. These people on psychotropic medications, when they're interred, they're only interred for 72 hours if they're an adult, and they can walk out the door. where if you get them warm, get them fed, give them a fighting chance. When I was couriering in Toronto for a friend of mine, back when the government went on strike, we were doing some stuff for the banks. I saw people with fingers gone, ear tips gone, noses gone. People that a guy sleeping on the grate, right, in a snowstorm, sleeping on the grate, wrapped up in garbage bags, just trying to stay alive. That's not right. I mean, you can't drag them, and people go, well, you need to go to all the hostels. No, and some of these hostels, am I saying it properly? Hostels. Some of these places,
Yeah.
They're abused. That means, to get a pair of shoes, you have to sleep on them because somebody's going to steal their shoes, right? Because they're all in a big dorm type thing. That's not right. That's not right. We look after the immigrants better than we look after our own citizens. Yeah. I'm not saying we shouldn't look after the immigrants, but that program should expand to look after. Many of them have mental challenges. They've gone through divorces and job loss, especially with this madness of this vaccine crap, this jabbing stuff, and a lot of people who were career people and had a good lifestyle are now living on the streets.
That's why it's so maddening to see the Prime Minister climb on a jet and fly down to Jamaica and stay for free with some family friend in a hotel valued at $85,000 on a family vacation again. There's something seriously not right in this whole scenario.
So here's the thing. I call it laser focus goals. I did a PowerPoint. I don't know if I sent it to you or not. Laser focus goals. The key is pick. Okay, what you have to do is you have to pick something, and all the groups in Canada need to join, right? And this is what we're doing slowly but surely. But the idea is that you need to pick something that is simple, not a complicated issue. Just pick a very simple issue that you can win at, right? We know we can win at. And then that grows the confidence in people. People say, you know what? Maybe we can do something right. Because people feel defeated. So many people are in depression that I can see it in them, that they don't even know it. They're living in a life of depression. But when they see a little victory, they get so excited. That's why so many people are watching this TikTok stuff, because it gives them some form of watching other people win, right?
Yep.
But the idea is that we take item by item by item and beat them back, and then you get the next idea and beat them back, and you increase it, and you just keep going, and we will win. And the first start is that $5 a month, and I'm not going to beg anybody because it's not in that field. I would beg you to help the houseless. Don't give the houses necessary money. What you do is bring them a meal. Ask them, say, hey, have you eaten today? If they say no, go grab them a Burger King or something. Forget Burger King. McDonald's, forget it. You don't want to poison them. But,
something. Yeah.
Timmy's or something, and give them a sandwich and watch how good you feel, right? And you don't do it because people are watching. You do it because they're but for the grace of God go you or I. I know people have been very, very wealthy in this life who today have nothing. They have nothing.
Well, we're kind of getting to the end of our broadcast here. I'll just throw it over to you, Jack, for some final thoughts tonight.
Well, I think your show there needs to be more programs like yours. There needs to be more voices here. Hopefully there's a lot of Canadians watching this who have something to say. Get up and say it. Do a one-page newsletter. Hand it out to your friends. Email it out, and don't take offense if people say something to you. It's not what happens to you; it's how you handle it. It's the old age, right? Somebody could spit in your face. That's their choice. But what you do about it is yours. Very simple. And the other point is this: when you're talking to people and they're open to listening to you, don't you can talk them in and talk them out all in the same 15 minutes, right? Or 2 minutes. And that's what you do. It's called a 2-minute elevator speech. Just pick up a couple of points and then bounce it off them. If they react, trade numbers. Give them your email or phone number or something, and say, hey, we'll chat, we'll talk. And then send them to Civis for Reform and tell them about Veterans for Freedom, and tell them about Police on Guard. Police on Guard with Chris and Wendy Long and all the people that run Police on Guard. I haven't done much lately, but they're so well, run. These are amazing human beings. These are people who left the police force, either retired or just left because they were disgusted by what they were saying. And yet they're how would I say it? I guess they're promoters of honesty and values, and they feel bad that the Canadian citizens aren't being treated the way we need to be treated by the police forces. But in order to change the police, you have to change the conversation. You have to, first of all, show the federal government and provincial government we cannot be beat. That's first, with the fund and stuff. First of all, we show that we're not to be pushed around. And once we do that, that's going to cause them scattering right away. That's going to cause people to start thinking, hey, maybe I should change the way I've been voting. Maybe I should change the way I've been doing things because they're coming for me, right? And we will come for you. If you're one of the corrupt ones, we're coming for you. We'll turf you out of office like we did Aaron O'Toole in the local. And Jamil, the new guy here, the first thing out of his mouth was what? Oh, Bell Media let me go because I wasn't black enough. So I sent him an email. I said, that's a great start, Jamil. You start off with the race card. That's a great start, right? So I'll vote for Patricia Conlon for the PPC. I'll vote for her to hammer him out if she could. So that's it. And pray. I'm sorry, I can't leave. I don't. It's a touchy subject for a lot of people because they've given up on it. But my greatest battles in life has always been solved by getting on my knees. I get on my knees every morning and every night on the side of my bed, and I give thanks for the blessings of my life, which have been numerous. And I ask for guidance. And I pray for my friends and warriors and stuff that we'll be able to help them in the way they need. And I'm not ashamed. It says, be not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. May I share my philosophy in life? Real quick.
Yeah.
If you have a 50-foot pole out in your backyard or a tree, and your thing at 1:30 in the morning is to go up there naked if your neighbors don't complain, and swing upside down by your ankles and go around on that pole, and every third time you recite the alphabet and you spit. And that's your way of activism. That's your way of worshiping, or either one. However, you're the same person that if a child falls off their bicycle, you'll comfort them. You're the same person who'll drop a toonie in the houseless person's cup. And you're the same person who'll hold the door open for a senior carrying groceries. I will shed my last drop of blood to defend your right to swing on that pole. Just don't come tell me I have to swing on it, because you'll swing on a different way. You know what I mean? So like people go, well, this person's gay or this person's this. I don't care. What you do is speak so loud, right? I can't hear what you say. So I'll defend anybody's rights that are decent people, that don't try to choke out other people. That's the way we should be. We should respect each other, mutual respect.
Yes. Tolerance. And there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said. Jack McLellan, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight, sir.
It's always a pleasure, Rick. It's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure and an honor to know you. All the best, my friend.
Likewise.
And to the listeners, thank you.
Thank you. And we'll let Jack get back to his Saturday night. I'll stick with you guys, and I'll be back right after this. Thank you, Jack. Talk to you again soon.
All the best.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, ladies and gents, it is Saturday night, so we're going to go to the phones here for at least a few minutes. Let me get everything fired up, and I'll be back on the other side of this.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are Mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we have the phones ready to go here. This is the number.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay, and there we have it. There's the screen, which means you guys are dialed in. Let's go to our first caller of the night. Who do we have on the line? Go ahead.
Good evening, and how are you tonight?
Well, I'm just fine, Chris. I recognize that bright, friendly voice from out in Western Canada. Welcome back.
Yeah, that was a very interesting guest you had on tonight. He was, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Jack's awesome because he just knows a lot of people. He brings people together, and we've talked about this fund with V4F before, but with that open letter that he has written, and I will post that on our website as well within the next day, so that people can get it there and then download it, share it, do whatever you want with it, because that's what the whole idea is here, to get the message out. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You go ahead and talk.
No, I just think that was a really good idea. And you know how he was just talking about those buses?
Yep.
About putting old buses to use? Yeah. So I actually saw on a Calgary news feed last night that there's a group of people, younger people. They've got together and they've got a couple of buses, and they're bringing the concept from California. So they're going to have showers in them, bathrooms in them, where they can eat, like grab a quick meal, change their clothes. And in the summer, they're going to start bringing it out in Calgary and going around to the homeless people.
Well, there's a real need for it, and that sounds like a great idea to me. It's mobile. It takes the help directly to the people. So hopefully we'll see.
I think it's a great idea because, well, the thing is, like Edmonton, there's like 8 homeless camps. I think they've dismantled 4 this week. And it's really brutal watching what they're doing. They're giving them 48 hours notice, but there's really so I guess there's some shelters, some space available, but a lot of these people have stuff and they don't want it. It's like their little bit of possessions they own in life. They were taking this stuff and throwing it into the garbage trucks, and what little they could get on their bikes with the trailer, they were hauling it off. And I guess there's something coming up in the courts this week about this, because where are they going to go? So now what's happening is, so you clean one camp out, 3 streets down the road, it's starting again.
Yes.
This isn't solving the issue. This is not, it's brutal. I think it's really, really cruel. I mean, I get that a lot of them don't want to go into the shelters, like that gentleman was saying, you're not safe there. You get something, you want to sleep on it because God knows if it's going to disappear. I get that, right? They want their independence somehow. Another country I heard is maybe it was in Canada. I can't remember. I think they're actually putting up washrooms and running hot water for people and sanitation, like dumpsters, they're going out of their way, heating places that they can go in and keep warm. They're trying to help them. They're not dismantling them like they are out here.
Well, no question. You need, you absolutely need support and services on the front line, but this is really a failure of our government. I think that it's misguided social policy, misguided economic policies. You have, and maybe I'm just old fashioned, but so be it. I think that we've lost our moral compass. We've allowed media, we've allowed the government to promote the use of all kinds of different drugs, legalizing it, too much alcohol out there. During the pandemic, they kept the liquor stores open, but closed down the churches, and then they shut down, as Jack just mentioned, these psychiatric hospitals, which had some issues, but you just simply shut them down. And there's one not too far from here, the old Southwest Regional Center. It's just a pile of rubble still today. And, they just took those people, a lot of them, and just kicked them out basically and threw them into society. They end up on the streets because they don't have the proper supports. They don't stay on their meds. They don't have proper support. This is the problem. And then then it's the cops who have to deal with it, and they're not properly equipped. So this is a big issue.
No, they're not. And they're not handling mental health very good. There was an incident about a month ago in Edmonton. They were called out for a welfare check for a woman that hadn't been heard of for a couple of days by her family. So when the police got in there and they kind of barged open the door, they wrecked the door completely. They didn't even give her time to answer it. And because she was a little bit off and they saw a fake toy, like an air pistol, they ended up killing her. And the family is now going to sue them because it's you really should have, they handled that wrong. And that's what's happening now. It's they have no patience. It's no, they're crazy and we're going to do away with them. It's really sad that society's come to this. I just can't, in my life, I've never seen anything like it in Canada. I'm just, like you said, and then Trudeau goes away on this free, well, if it's free, I don't know. They're saying it, but the truth will come out eventually.
Yeah, well, if it is free, then he owes the guy a pretty big favor, doesn't he?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
the problem. To me, that's the problem. So now keep an eye on that and see if that guy, or if there's some linkage to some government contract or some money that flows in some other way. That's how the corruption manifests. That's the issue.
Yep. Like, do you possibly think that it could be, because last night or the other night, one of the, I get my days mixed up. You were talking about the salary that a PM makes, right?
About 178,000 a year, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, but Trudeau is worth lots and lots of money. I believe he's getting paid by the WEF as well to promote all this other crap that he's doing.
His father, Pierre, set him up with a trust fund. So he was born wealthy. He has money.
Yes, that's true.
He even his Mercedes, which belonged to Pierre, Justin owns it now. He has it. I've seen that car up close. I think it's worth alone probably $1 million.
Wow!
And I think he had that car at his wedding as well. If I remember right. But anyway,
wow!
It's that old vintage Mercedes sports car.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, I remember seeing a picture of it. Yeah. Well, yeah, he was born wealthy. I mean, with a spoon in his mouth, exactly. But he
that's
just seems
why
to have.
The guy can't relate to ordinary people. He doesn't understand ordinary problems with ordinary Canadians, middle class, the poor. He has no concept. He's on he goes on vacation at this place worth $85,000 for an 8 or 9 day stay. He flies down there in a government jet, and the only thing it cost him was to reimburse the government for the cost of a commercial. The cost of a commercial airline ticket for himself and whatever it would cost to fly his family down there. But he's not flying commercial. He gets his own private government paid for plane.
Yeah, and didn't it break down too? Didn't they have to go rescue him again?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Not that
I would have just left him there.
Not that I begrudged the prime minister access to a plane or whatever, right? He's the prime minister, but it's just at a certain point, it just becomes beyond decadent. He just to me is like another pig feeding at the public trough, gorging himself.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, and then you tell us, oh, you guys stop driving your vehicles and go to EV, but you're leaving footprints all over the world traveling.
Yeah, turn your
something wrong with this picture.
Turn your fleet of vehicles that you drive around in, your procession. Make sure every one of those things is powered by electricity. Why aren't they running everything off EVs? Because it doesn't work for them.
Yeah, of course, they know it doesn't. Yeah. But I know it's just it'll be an interesting year. I'm hoping for the best, but that's all we can do. But no, I think that was a very interesting caller you had. He had some really good, good ideas, good things to say. I like his thinking on different things for sure. Yeah. And there is zombies, Rick. See, there is zombies.
There are zombies.
You didn't think there was.
Yeah, well, that's true. And they're just
that's almost scary.
If you look at it that way, then we have a lot of zombies out there, drugged out, drunked out zombies wandering the streets. That's for sure. And
I mean, think about it. Free. Yeah. It is. It's sad. It's really, and like you said, they're getting out in BC. They're getting free drugs and everything. It's almost like we want to keep you all zombie-like, so we can continue what we're doing, and you won't realize what's happening.
Yep.
And that's sad. Like, I mean, it really is. But that's all I had to say tonight. I just wanted to mention about those buses, because when he mentioned it, I thought, I just seen that the other night. So if I find a link to that, I'll send it to you for sure.
Thank you.
And did you see that one I sent you, that little one to make you laugh last night?
With the
dogs and the Christmas tree?
Yeah.
That poor guy couldn't get that tree over that fence if he tried.
Maybe
I thought I'd make you laugh.
Maybe I'll see if I can cue that up so we can share it with people at the end of the show.
Yeah, that is hilarious. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say for tonight.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure.
Except that it's supposed to get really cold out here by the middle of the week, so not looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well,
anyways, Rick, you have a good night.
Thank you, Chris. Talk to you soon.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Okay, and we have Susie up now. How are you?
Hey, it's Choosy. How you doing, Rick?
Good. How are you? How are you, sir?
That machine fools you every time.
Yeah, it does.
You would think I don't have any front teeth.
So what's on your mind tonight?
I was hoping you could explain to me concisely what Jack is all about, because I was having trouble understanding him, and I lost a couple of segments here and there from the Google Mic lapse.
All right, sure, okay. So in a nutshell, Jack is just a guy who I've known for a while. I got to know him because of the Freedom Convoy and everything that came after that. And he is just, his social network has expanded. So he knows a lot of people within the community, the freedom community, if you will. And so he's been sort of bringing people together over time, in my view, a kind of a very positive way, to open discussions and just facilitate, forums, I guess, even just meetings of people or whatever, not really formally, but he'll like connect people. Just say, I know a guy,
right.
I'm gonna get you in touch with so and so, and then the next thing you know, things just come together. And that with him is always just, in my experience with him, just been very organic. So here he is again. He just wrote this open letter, and he just sent to me, like he sent it to a lot of other people, and I took note of it. And it's just calling on people to support the Veterans for Freedom legal fund. And I said, well, if you want to talk about it, come on the show. It's been a long time since he's been on. And so he agreed to come on and just discuss that. And that's really all it's about. So he's just drawing attention to their program because he believes in it. He's just a supporter of V4F. He's not a member. He just donates to them. I think he bought their shirt, so he was wearing it tonight. He likes what they're doing. And the idea behind that fund is that, and Drew from V4F was on the program talking about it before. The way it works right now is people donate, and they have a few $1,000s that they've generated through it at any given time. And then the people who donate have the opportunity to vote on how they would like the money used, who they would like to direct it to, and they're using it for legal defense. So anybody that's facing any kind of a legal challenge that the people vote for, that they feel need the assistance financially, that's where the money will be directed. So that's the way that it's working right now.
So it's like an advocacy relief fund.
Yeah. For, anybody that's been charged for anything that they feel might be worthwhile. So they'll put up a list of names of people, and people can assess, I guess, and then vote how they want the money directed.
That all sounds above board and noble, and he sounds like an interesting networker.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm hoping that people will get the solution in their heads. What concerns me about the whole freedom movement is I heard some really smart people in the very beginning of it, and then they all seemed to disappear, and the whole thing went downhill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not sure what happened to some of those people. There was like a real smart doctor, for one thing. He was the guy who was like, yeah, all nations are de facto Roman cartels. He wasn't messing around. What happened to that guy?
Well,
and and how come they can't find the Order of Malta headquarters instead of always going back to Parliament Hill, where they keep messing it up?
Mm-hmm.
And that we got to get focused. I can't stand to see people, in this misguided powerlessness and in the defensive mode. We have a communications logistics problem where we need to get a bat phone message to the standing military officers. It's the same thing as it's was weeks and months and years ago. And we need to solve this communications problem. And yeah, we need wise men and logistics people to use their skills to get this done. And we don't need a disruption. We don't need to block traffic. We don't need illegality. We need to expose the Order of Malta qualitatively. Not it doesn't matter how many people are involved. It's the quality of the exposure. And I'm hoping that this is going to be the week. I keep saying that week after week, Rick, but it's been positive week. The consciousness is clearly rising, and the Million Lawyer March gets it. The momentum in Maui looks to be unstoppable, and I think everything is coming together in a perfect storm. People are realizing that all of the war conflicts are mutually instigated and orchestrated sacrificial ritual against innocence in general. And as all of these things come together, that peaceful revolution, Olympics, is destiny and not the Jesuits' end of times. That just, that only makes sense to idiots who think they can crawl into their nuclear-proof bunkers for 100 years.
Like Mark Zuckerberg,
Anyway.
who's building his own bunker for $235 million.
Yeah. Yeah, we need a cease and desist order on that. We do, because he's bound for military tribunals with the rest of the Order of Malta. And this Epstein list is a trickle, partisan, politicized trickle by the looks of it, partial list of the Order of Malta, and we just need the whole list of 3,500 in the USA released so we can connect all the dots and see that, yes, it is a heinous political monopoly, and it's all the people dominating all sectors, deep state and beyond. And if they are good people, then why don't they want us to see that list? And the answers are all rhetorical to these questions. Anyway, I don't want to hold up the whole thing, but I also don't want to run off. Are there any questions for me?
I'm just tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on this, the Epstein document dumps.
Yeah, the Epstein document dumps appears to be politicized, and people are, still trying to do the bigoted route where they're blaming Judaism instead of looking at the Roman Jesuit order and Order of Malta. They're also trying to make it look like, oh, it's a Clinton thing, So again, I don't have energy for that bullshit. People have to understand that political solution for fascism is impossible for a whole long list of historically proven reasons. And in order to pin these Knights of Malta and put them in prison or exile where they belong is military tribunals convening. And we have to have our standing military officers unite cohesively in order to get that done. It's the only thing proven in history to work other than a benevolent pope like Clement XIV, who expelled Jesuit order from 80 nations in 1773, citing their heinous political monopoly. But he didn't expel them from America. He didn't expel them from England or China or Russia. And that's why we've had all this back bleeding into the rest of the world since then. And Epstein is the realm of Knights of Malta. He was photographed with Maxwell in Rome itself, with the popes themselves, and the heads of the deep state like John Podesta and Leon Panetta or whatever. I get, all the creeps. And it's so obvious, but yet people still, even in the Maui the Hawaii real estate chat before I came to your chat tonight. I was late because that's where I was. It's important. And there's people in that chat even that don't get it. They're talking about Josh Green. They're like, oh, well, he's Jew. No. Josh Green is Order of Malta, and he has a Jesuit breadcrumb trail to Pennsylvania. And people need to get with the lingo, get with the language and terminology of exposing these folks specifically so that we squash the bigotry, because bigotry isn't going to fix this. It's just promoting the smokescreen that allows the anonymity to go on.
Yeah. I've noticed
what
that
else?
too. It's like this is just another thing where they're just blaming the Jews, basically, like blame the Jews.
Yeah.
And because Epstein,
Let's go back.
yeah,
let's go back to New York City. All right, his neighborhood. Pope Francis himself has very fancy He has very fancy property right in that neighborhood, like practically next door. All right, and then there's Cardinal Timothy Dolan has his $35 million mansion on the outskirts of New York to the north.
Yeah.
And it's all tax exempt and entitled, probably has an indoor pool at that price. And they're all in cahoots. The Cardinal Timothy Dolan is not a pious man. He's making surprise trips to the Ukraine, probably bringing Zelensky care packages, because that's what they're all about. It's all about smuggling. Epstein had a 727. That plane has a back door that drops down. It was a stairway, but it can also be used to do air dumps. So, for instance, if he was smuggling something, he could drop it over his island on the way to land in St. John's, or if they needed to drop something anywhere, they could. All right? So that's creepy. And there's no reason for him to have a 727 otherwise, because it's an obsolete aircraft. So you want it for that back door. That's the only reason they have those. What else about Epstein?
Well, I guess
we
just
go on
in simpler language, we need to root out the corruption and not get focused on the ethnicity or the bigotry. Just root out the corruption, because it's a group of people who are very wealthy and powerful, and they're just acting like pigs.
Yeah, they are following the script of the Jesuit blood oath itself, the extreme oath of induction of the Jesuit order. And they invert everything. They suck at definitions. They're terrible at math on purpose for unethical reasons and outcomes. And they can't do current events or history because it's highly incriminating. That's why Obama, who promised justice, first thing he did when he got in is said, oh, well, we're going to look forward. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Obama. He was skull and bones, and Joe was the Order of Malta, Jesuit Cardinal lapdog, brains behind Obama. Same thing with Dick Cheney and George W. Again, the Order of Malta behind the skull and bones president. And Trump and Biden are just straight up Order of Malta. There's no skull and bones. They got them in their cabinet, you know, and but it's all the same thing. And there's 13,500 Order of Malta globally. We have the largest chunk by the looks of it in the USA, 3,500. That's a lot. Maybe China has more. I don't know. Google, again, seems to be setting up America to be holding the bag for all of this. And that's not fair, because it's Roman. And inducted Rome is a fictitious landless nation. The Order of Malta likes to talk about their fictitious landless nation like it's, you know, scrambled eggs or something. It's all horse shit.
Well,
They just make it up as they, yeah.
all right. Well, Choosy, we're going to move on. I appreciate the call as always,
All right.
sir.
Sounds like a plan, Rick.
Yeah.
All right. Much love. No fear.
Love you too, man. And looking forward to the next call. Thank you so much. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And here's Dom Palm.
Hello?
Hello. How are you this evening?
Oh, hello, it's Dom Palm. I have a cold.
Oh, well, I feel sorry for you. You got the sniffles.
I know. I think Honesty has one too. They seem to be going around. Anyways, I just wanted to say I liked what you. Happy New Year, and I'm so sorry to hear that little Fred passed away.
Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing about Fred is I pronounced him dead, and he wasn't. He perked up and he was alive for 2 more days, and now he's dead.
Oh dear. Well, Mrs. Fish is. I haven't told her yet. You know, I'm looking after Mrs. Fish here. If Mrs. Fredina, and I haven't told her, and I don't think I will.
Well, yeah.
Anyways,
she doesn't need to know. Maybe we'll get a replacement for Fred the Freedom Fish, and I'll make sure that Fred the Freedom Fish 2 looks just like Fred the Freedom Fish 1, so she won't know the difference.
Oh, that's a good idea, Sir Richard. A very good idea. A bit of levity. Yeah. We need a bit of levity with all this garbage and crap going on these days.
Oh, yes, we do.
And it's just a bunch of crap. Anyways, I just wanted to say I liked that last caller and what he said. It makes a lot of sense. And I've been following, and I love Jack. And on tonight, she was a bit hard to understand at the beginning, but it's all worked out fine. And I think that is a very good cause to give to if you can afford it. And I might not be able to give $5, but I might be able to, because I am so tight right now, living on a senior's pension, and it's just a basic senior's pension. But I just want to say that it would be, maybe I will contact them and see if I can help from an administration point of view or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. You're welcome to do that. I don't know what other kind of supports they might need.
Well, just as a volunteer. Now, I wanted to speak about that. I was volunteering. We were talking about zombies, don't you know? He was talking about now Nanaimo. In the last 2 to 3 years, we've had so many people here walking around all hunched over, and they're using stolen shopping carts to keep them up, and they just jaywalk. They don't even look to see if a car is coming or not, and you don't know when you walk past them if they're going to strike out at you, but they don't. They're absolutely bent over. If you talk to them and say hello, they don't hear you. And there's so many, and they're starting to die in the streets just about 2 miles from where I live.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's really getting bad. It's really getting bad. And you know, I think this whole Epstein thing, I saw all those lists 4 or 5 years ago they came out. I saw them, a guy named Sean Atwood in England had the black books, and he had the flight list, and he showed it all. And then it was shut up and hushed up, and now it comes out again, and there's nothing really new in it, but other than what the transcripts are going to say. But I think it might expose some money laundering and some insider trading going on. If if they really publish the truth. But if they don't, and people, I was very disappointed when that Virginia Dufresne Roberts took the payout by Prince Andrew, because she said earlier that she would never be bought out, but yet she was bought out. And now she's talking again, but this is a different case because it's against Maxwell, not Jeffrey Epstein. So it will be interesting to see what comes out there. But there's many other girls that are talking, and the first 900 pages. Well, when they first released that, from about 300 onwards, they were redacted, but they're starting to become little bit by bit, because I don't think we're meant to be overwhelmed with all the facts overnight, because people won't be able to absorb it. And I noticed in the chat when I was talking about it, some people didn't want to hear about it because they didn't want to believe that it was true. But this child trafficking and human trafficking is huge, and it's all around the world. And I think that even the Jesuits are involved in it.
I couldn't say how extensive it is. Obviously, it's a thing. We've known that always. This thing with Epstein is just an example of it at the highest level, involving people with a lot of money and power.
A lot of political leaders.
Yes.
I mean, look at Trudeau. You made a point earlier this evening. He keeps going to these islands, and they're private islands. You don't know what's going on there.
Well, actually, he's not going to. Well, the Aga Khan thing, but that's a little different again still. And where he went this time was a resort in Jamaica, but it's like a high-end elite kind of hotel, and his accommodations over the course of his stay had an estimated value, according to the National Post article that broke the story, of $85,000.
I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, it's we've got to get to the root of the source, and why, and one of those roots is media, mainstream media, that propagates and goes along with this Project Mockingbird and does everything they're told to say by government. Another one is, I'm not against all unions, but I don't think civil servants should be in unions. They should be on term limits, and they should be hired by the people and working for the people, not the political leader or what the political leader represents, because they come and go. They should be working towards the laws that have already been established in Canada, and our old, we have a constitution, and we also have a charter of rights, and they should be abiding by that. But they're not even listening to some of those things, and they're running off doing their own thing, and they're just listening to whatever their puppet master tells them to do.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And I think we have to start getting to the root of the problem. I mean, these political leaders come and go. They're not elected, they're selected. They're selected in advance. And the parties pay for them. And they know who's getting in, and they just keep it going round and round in the loop to deceive the people and make them think that they're all being looked after. Meanwhile, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse for them. And another thing, Sir Richard, where I am, I've been seeing a lot of new immigrants come in here, lots from Africa, lovely women. I talk to them in the supermarket. I mean, they're really nice, but they're handing out $100 bills at the grocery store in US dollars, and they're paying for good groceries. Meanwhile, I barely afford a loaf of bread and a liter of milk, and they've got money to spend. They're all in nice brand new clothes, beautiful, lovely purses, lovely hairdos. I mean, the hair is just all braided and looks lovely, and jewels in it and all sorts of things. And somebody's paying for this, and we are, but there's got to be these NGOs that are bringing them in. And then I see housing going up in the form of apartments, but nothing in the way of more for workers, but nothing for families. No new housings, affordable houses for families to have children and raise families in. It all seems to be for single people coming in.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pam.
So I'm just going to keep my eyes open, and I wanted to let you guys know that, because we've got to get to the root of the problem. The roots, not all these distractions, which we keep getting. They just keep distracting us from the real root of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we're going to move on.
Anyway,
thank you, Pam. I appreciate the call.
All right.
And we'll chat again real soon. And I'm glad you had a good Christmas and a good New Year.
So thank you, Dale. Bye-bye.
Okay, talk to you soon. And who do we have up next? Who's this?
Cheerio, chop. This is King Charles.
Oh, King. I'm so glad you called.
King Charles. Is it so, Richard?
It is, and I heard you had an emergency meeting the other day with your family. Give us the
Yes, I don't know why. Well, you know my son, Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
He's really my son. He's really my son, Richard. He's a pedophile. And so we had an emergency meeting, and we had to wake up the Queen. The Queen, we had to wake her up.
Uh-huh.
We had to get direction from the Queen.
Okay. Well, that would
so
be a
I don't
challenge.
know why. Okay, it's me, folks. It's me. It's the real deal, Leo. Okay, and I just don't get why his plane keeps breaking down and not at 36,000 feet. Now, I'd be a little paranoid if I was the prime minister getting on any airplane whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what, twice in a year? Twice in less than a year.
Yep.
So it sounds to me like somebody has it out for them.
I think maybe you're onto something there, Leo. I said before when it broke down in India that maybe he had a bit of a problem in that way.
I think somebody's out for him. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but 2 times in a year, come on. You're you're the king of Canada, for fuck's sakes. Well, in his eyes, anyways, right?
Yeah. And
as for Jack, I like that guy. I like Jack.
Yeah,
Jack's a good man.
He is a good man. He is.
He's got some great insight. My 2 cents on what happened to the Freedom Convoy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they had me at hello.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I was all for it in the beginning. Okay, and I'm all for it today, but they got the wrong people leading.
Yeah, I hear you. Yep.
Okay. When you got Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Baby Bear, all the bears, Billy Ray, the Clarks, okay, Grifton here and there, okay, and they're still making money off it.
Yeah.
Okay, off the podcast and everything else. You got these guys telling you, like Clark. My biggest problem with Clark was when he's telling people to sell everything you got and move up to Ottawa. Yeah. We have a compound in Ottawa. Sell everything you got, and some people did fall into that trap. They sold everything that they got. He brainwashed people, and then he beat feet back to fucking Alberta, saying a pipe broke in his house.
Yeah. Isn't he still supposed to be there? It was the last stand, right? And everybody was
last
supposed
stand,
to be,
right?
Last stand, last chance again. And what can I say, man? It's like I have trouble following people when the people that are saying follow me are leading people off the end of a cliff. That's what I have a problem with.
I could smell bullshit from a mile away. Okay, that's just street smarts that I'm blessed with. Okay, and I'm glad that I have it because I could see it. I could see the cons, the frauds. Okay, and there's a lot of conning and a lot of frauding going on, right? And it's just like the David Koresh thing. Brainwashing people using the Bible, and it goes on a lot.
not
Jones.
that, and not that I
drink
came on here
Kool-Aid.
tonight to slam any one person or anything. On the contrary, I want positive change. I want forward momentum. I want to win. Right? That's my thing. I want to win. We need positive forward action. And but what you're saying tonight, Leo, it makes sense. Like it's undeniable, and yet the other problem with the movement, what's left of it, is that the same people leading people off the end of the cliff, they keep jumping off the cliff, and then people keep going back and following the same people all over again. It blows my mind.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild, buddy. It's wild. Okay. It'll never be the same as it was the first time. It's like having sex. Okay. It's never the same as the first time. Okay. And you'll never get that feeling back. Okay. It's like somebody who does cocaine. You do cocaine once, you'll never have that feeling again. So why do it? I'm not saying don't have sex anymore. Have all the sex you want. It is what it is, right? But it's not like the first time, right? And these people that are following these people, like you said, man, you're going to get a lot of people hurt in the process.
Yeah, and I'm
all for it too.
And I am just.
And when I hear people talk about, I'm not voting for PP, I'm voting for Max. A vote for Max, folks, is a vote for the fucking Liberal Party.
Yeah.
At this point,
it is.
Okay. Anything but. Now, I'm not saying Max is he's going to do everything he says. Who cares if he don't? Okay, and you don't get rid of the carbon tax, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. Well, then we need another party, and we need a party fast to come up.
Yeah.
Okay, because we've tried them all.
I agree with that.
Okay, we've tried them all, so we need something new. I get it. Okay, but this ain't Max's. This ain't going to be Max's election, and anybody that votes for him is, like I said, you're voting for the left. And that's what divided it the last election.
Yep.
Okay, was all the people that voted for the PPC, or the PPC, whoever voted for them. Okay, we see what happened. It split the vote, and this is the reason we're in fucking where we're at today.
Yeah, we need to. I think you're right again. I think we need to unite the right, if you will, like that. Reunite the conservative movement. I think Harper's right when he says that we need a conservative renaissance. You need to repatriate, bring those people that Max took away, bring them back into the conservative party. To counteract the liberal infiltration of the conservative party, which is what's created this uniparty atmosphere, if you will, in Canada.
Oh, right.
Amplified it.
Right, you got John Charest.
Yeah, liberal.
Okay, where's John Charest? What's he doing in the Conservative Party?
Yep. I can tell you why they're there. They're there taking it over so that you can vote liberal or you can vote liberal. That's why.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly why. So don't read through the bullshit because there's a lot of it. Okay, you'll be reading for months. Okay, in PP and the whiff. Give the guy the try. If he buckles, we know what to do.
And in fact, I would say there's a guy who can win. He's absolutely electable. He's on track to win. He needs the support from real conservatives now more than ever. Give him a shot. Even when he gets in there, he's got a lot of work cut out for him, an uphill battle, not only, governing, but also within his own party. So we'll see if he can be as effective as Harper and maybe better, right? And I think he could be better.
He could be better. I'd love to see him and Rami Swami there fucking having a beer. That would be a great conversation to hear those two because they're brilliant. Okay. Yeah. They're brilliant. You listen to the way that they talk. Okay. They're on point and they appeal to the average guy.
Yeah. And sharp, like
and
sharp wit, like sharp. fast, right? Really impressive.
Obama was a good speaker. I ain't going to knock him there. He's probably the best speaker they ever had as a president.
Yeah.
Intelligent. Okay. And, his ways were fucking just as retarded as Joe Biden's in the end. Right. But to get to what he wanted, he knew what to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in that, but here's another one for you. For the first time in Canadian history, and you have to look into this, Rick, there are more people awaiting sentencing by the courts than there are in prison. So what happens? You know, the conservatives, everybody, they got bail reform going on in BC. Okay, and I don't know what to make of it. There's a fellow that was killed in Niagara Falls, and he owned a winery. Did you catch that one? The story last week?
No, I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, guy ran into his house and stabbed him, murdered him, and the guy ended up getting sent to a fucking loony bin.
I see.
Didn't even get a sentence. Right? He'll be out in 3 or 4 years, probably to recommit. Right? So our jails are full, and the people awaiting jail, you know, where do they go? House arrest, tethers.
Yeah. Ankle thingies, whatever you call them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the ankle bracelet, the tracker, whatever, right? So, you know, I know everybody wants to get hard on crime and everything else, but where are you going to put these people? There's nowhere to put them. 10 to a cell. And Pam, with all these Africans with $100 US $100 bills, I wouldn't be taking them because there's a lot of US $100 bills and 50s that are counterfeit that are going around Canada right now. So the chances of them being counterfeit are pretty high.
Yeah. Oh, you remember the other night you were on with that Celtic, the woman who was crying about the children?
Yeah. Celtic love.
Celtic love. So
yes.
This is all about Lahaina. I have a challenge for really, I guess, the whole Maverick family, specifically for Celtic love. I would like to have the parents, relatives, some of the families of these missing children on the show. So I'm going to put it out there for people. Here's a challenge. Help me out. Become a citizen journalist. Track down a few families, a mother, a father. Some of these families must be in absolute despair. So let's get them on the show so they can share their stories with us here on Maverick News. So I'm going to throw that out there. And that caller was so distraught, so emotional. It really, it stuck with me, and I'm not done with that.
Rattled your cage.
So I'm just putting it out there. Help me out. Help out the whole Maverick family. Help out the news operation. Go find us. Just reach out. Go find, let's say, 3 families, 3 mothers, 3 fathers. Let's tell people about these missing kids that we're hearing about. Because apparently there are thousands of missing children. So let's get at least a few families on to talk about it. And I'm going to challenge you guys to help us go find some people to interview in that regard. How does that sound?
Sounds great. The censorship bill that they have is so tough right now, Rick. Watching the news today with my wife, I said, you know what? Nobody's even hearing anything about the shit in Japan for social media. She said that's because of the censorship bill. Okay, and you're not hearing anything about Lahaina because of the censorship bill. Right? You're not hearing a lot of things about a lot of things. They only want you to hear what they want you to hear.
Well,
okay, and they're blocking shit off of social media left and right because there's world disasters and you're not hearing about it.
From
like the fires.
From what I hear, from what I'm hearing, there are a lot of missing kids apparently. So it shouldn't be that difficult for people because you guys are all out there and you're in the chats and you're here and there. You probably have more connections on this than I do. So send them over. And Celtic love,
even Ukraine,
Celtic love. Really reach out to me, Celtic love. Cause Celtic love in particular, the challenge really is paramount for Celtic love. Because you wanted to know what you can do. You remember she said, what can we do? What can we do? And that's what Celtic Love can do. Just get us a couple of families, Celtic Love. Find them online and just get us in contact with a couple of families. And let's see where this goes over the next week or so.
And speaking of Celtic love or Celtic love, Irish, I watched Kill the Irishman last night on Amazon. Okay, and I know a lot about history in Cleveland and all that shit, right? Well, there's a guy named Danny Green that was an Irishman who ran the unions and then went against the Italian mafia. There were 36 bombings just in Cleveland in 1976 because of this guy. You don't hear about that too much, eh? But it was a good watch. Anybody who's got Amazon, check it out. It's a true story about Danny Green, and yeah, I was quite intrigued by it. You know, you look at that, right? But you're going to see like the Civil War. I hope we don't see Civil War, but I think it's inevitable in the United States with what you're seeing with the election interference that's going on with these states. You know, what happens if Donald Trump, okay, a bunch of these states don't want Donald Trump on the ballot, but he wins.
Right.
Do you recognize him as your president? Oh, you don't, eh? Well, guess what happens now?
Yeah.
You know, he sends in the military. You're going to recognize him the hard way.
This is very dangerous stuff, man. And it's like Biden is just. I think even his speech yesterday, that was like taking a can of gasoline and just throwing it on the fire again.
100%. You don't blame the American people and put them in fear like that.
No.
You know, I know where you sit on the results on how he got there, right? And just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, it's not right, and he's going to create more issues than should be, and he's doing it. He's trying hard, right? So,
yep.
on purpose. I would love to see Donald Trump in that Rammy as his vice president.
Yeah, I like Vivek. I like him a lot.
He's 10 times more educated than Mike Pence. Okay, and you can relate to him. Just listen to him. You know, he wants to put up a wall around Canada. That sounds great to me.
Yeah, he's sharp, man. He is one sharp cookie. Yeah.
Yes, and by the immigrants coming through the border the way they are, okay, you're gonna see a lot of crazy shit in this election, guys.
Yeah.
Really. Even though we're Canadians and we're just looking from the outside looking in, you're gonna notice a lot of crazy shit. And that shit's gonna spew into our elections.
Yep. And that's why I think Trudeau will call an election this year. I'm going to predict next fall. Very close to the same timing as the U.S. election. He's going to piggyback on that emotion, the anger, the division. He'll use it. I think that's what he'll do. That's my prediction.
He could do whatever he wants to do. Okay, when it all adds up, okay, and his accomplishments, he has none.
Yeah.
He has accomplished nothing. Okay, we're farther in debt than ever could be. Okay, and the balanced budgets itself, that's his excuse for it all.
Yeah.
The budget will balance itself.
Yeah.
You know, people are getting these food tax credits and shit like that right now, and I'm just laughing at it all, right? You got to pay back the carbon tax. All you people that took the carbon tax.
Yeah.
Okay, and I knew it right from the beginning. I worked all the way through it. Okay, I didn't miss a lick. I never took a cent. And I told people that were taking the 60 grand and shit like that, right, that they were handing out. You're gonna have to pay that back. Oh no, the government. This is how it works. If I get 40,000, I only have to pay 30,000 back. I get to keep 10. So okay, that's fine if you want to go that route. Take the 40 grand, put the 30 aside, keep the 10, and give them the 30 back a month later. Deal done, right? No, they want it all back.
Right.
Okay. And me and my wife were laughing. We know somebody personally, not one of the brightest people in the world, on welfare. Okay, with 4 kids, who set up 4 businesses when that came out, and she took over $150,000 from the government, and she's on welfare, and they just caught her. So her ass isn't going to the clink.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fraud, and so the government was handing out this money without any due diligence, checking anybody. They gave this welfare recipient she's a lowlife. works in a strip club as a stripper, or kids, it's a mess. We look at her and go, fucking unbelievable that the government gave her $150,000 and she was living like a rock star. Okay. And at the end of the day, they just contacted her, and we've heard through somebody else, and we just laughed. I knew it. Where'd all that money come from? Right. So, they're giving it away to people that without even checking who's who.
They were.
Yeah. You own 4 businesses. Yes, they were. Anybody could have just went down to City Hall, grabbed the business license. Guess what? I'm in business. Okay. Well, I need to serve. Right. And that's what's going on. So
yeah,
they're not going to get that money back. They got a better chance on trying to get the money back from Ukraine, which will never happen. We'll never see a cent from that.
No, we won't.
Right.
What a disaster.
So it's a disaster. So what's his accomplishments at the end of the day? Trudeau's, he has none. What's his legacy? Tampons in a male bathroom.
Yep. Quite an achievement.
And with that being said, Rick, I got to roll.
Okay. Thank you, Leo. Great
Adios,
call.
buddy.
See ya. Bye for now. There you go. And let me just bring that. I got something to share with you here. Okay. All right. So Chris did send us this. So let me just share this with you. There we go. Share it over here. Bring it over here. You're going to like this. And up it goes. And this is the dog video that Chris was talking about that she sent me. And I hope you enjoy this as much as I did and as much as she did. Now we'll enjoy it together. Here it is. And me walking my dog around the block is he looks a lot like that. And that's where I'm going now, folks. I'm going to finally sign off here tonight and go walk Cosmo around the neighborhood. I'm overdue, and he gets a little bit sad when I run too late here on the program. But it's a privilege as always to be here with you. Thank you very much to Jack McLellan for spending the time with us here tonight and bringing us the information on supporting that program through Veterans for Freedom and supporting those freedom fighters who are still facing legal challenges. And I will return here tomorrow night, same freedom time, same freedom channel. MaverickNews.ca is the website, and I will catch all you guys on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.